back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. Just as an aside, too, in 1989, Steve Largent became the first Seahawks player to win the Steve Largent Award.
I think it was fixed.
Is that called patting yourself on the back?
I guess so.
And he still has the trophy.
I couldn't think of anybody more deserving.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, are none other than Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Howdy.
Hello, guys.
How the hell are you tonight?
Doing okay, I think. You know,
Pretty good. Waiting for
the snow again?
Waiting for the snow again.
More
yeah.
snow.
we got some coming. We've got a little snow happening here right now.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, it's always good.
Well,
it's going to be like
winter.
75 degrees like after it snows, though, out there. So.
Yeah,
Not, not this last couple of weeks, man. We've been in a real cold snap here, but I can't wait for spring to get here. I'm kind of sick of this shit for right now. I'm sure you guys are even more so right now.
Hey, look at it this way. At least you're not Texas.
This is true.
I say that every day, even when there's not a freeze happening.
Yeah, I know, but just one more reason to not be Texas is
This is true.
they're having worse weather than
They're
you.
having horrible weather. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's right.
I mean, they had 3 inches of snow, 4 or 5 inches of snow in Austin. That's
what happens when Ted Cruz grows a beard.
It was like minus 3 degrees in Texas.
Minus 3 in Texas.
I'm sure there's a song in there.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yesterday was in the mid-50s here, and we're getting snow tomorrow.
Yeah, I like how I don't think it's going to be as big as the last storm, although it's spread out over a couple of days. But it's nice we had a couple of days of melt off.
Yeah,
to kind of get rid of some of it so that it can get covered up again.
Yeah, most everything is gone. There's patches here and there, but it's not like it's not covering like it was. So, but craziness. But I mean, one thing that's going to give you spring fever, other than that, is the fact that pitchers and catchers reported today.
Yay!
So that's a.
Where'd they report?
They reported
to the Army.
They reported to the.
They reported to the counselor's office.
they had a report to the guidance counselor.
That's right.
They reported to the mess hall for KP.
That's right.
They reported to the paper on So they went down there. There's been a couple of people down in Florida, out in Arizona for a few days. People got there early. Some people just wanted to jump in the bit and getting in a little bit sooner. But all the pitchers and catchers are down there now. We'll talk more about that during Major League Baseball when we get to that section right after our top 10 list tonight. But let's talk about something that happened last week. Something happened down in Florida. Something needed to apologize for. Pete, what was that about?
Well, that's kind of the question. I mean, it was a story that sort of raised and then died, but might be fun for us to talk about it. So, the old Tampa Bay boat parade.
Oh yes.
And I don't know if you guys saw the footage of. What I'm calling Boozy Tom.
Well, boat drunk's a different kind of drunk.
But Boozy Tom had his sea legs on, and then he got back on land, and he needed a little bit of help going.
He needed a lot of help, actually.
Which, you know what? I'm fine with that. If anybody deserves it, he does. To me, that's fun. He's just a human being. Yeah. But the trophy toss to the Gronkster, which didn't Gronk break the trophy a few years ago
2 years ago
in New England?
He dented the trophy. Yeah.
This is nothing compared to what used to happen to the Stanley Cup. How many times has the Stanley Cup been lost? Who knows what's gone on with the Stanley Cup? That's why they don't make any more trophies shaped like a bucket.
Well, and listen, look, they didn't. I mean, he caught it, so it was fine. But I was just thinking, like, even if it had fallen into the sea, there are definitely worse things that have happened to the Stanley Cup, and it doesn't even come close to comparing to. I think it was. Was it Real Madrid? Ramos dropping the cup off the front of the truck.
Yeah.
The Copa del Rey, I think. Finally getting it back from Barcelona after like 20 years, and then dropping it off the front of an open top bus right under the wheel.
This isn't some sort of parliamentary medal that this is.
Well, that's kind of the question I wanted to ask, because
it wasn't like they were tossing the Mona Lisa around.
No, but whatever her name is, Lorraine Grow, I think, or somebody Grow, the daughter of the guy who made the trophy, wanted an apology from Tom Brady. And I don't know. I kind of felt like it's the trophy. How sacred is it? I mean, even Lord Stanley's Cup, you're right, it's been abused, but hockey players were all insane anyway.
Right.
Yeah, if Lord Stanley's never complained, or any of his offspring, then Lorraine Lombardi trophy, third cousin removed, should shut the fuck up.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt. I just want to get your opinion on it.
You know, I mean, it's yeah, you're right. There's no it's not like there's a proprietary medal that's being used for.
I'm sure traffic on her, on her yoga instruction classes have gone up since we now know her name.
Yeah, maybe she was. I don't know. Do you get stuff for being the daughter of the guy that?
She the daughter of the guy or the granddaughter of the guy?
I have one or the other. Related to the guy that created the trophy. So
third cousin, nine
maybe she's
times removed. Or,
maybe she's not getting free coffee anymore.
Probably not.
Need to boost her name recognition a little bit or something.
I think the funniest part of that was Brady's daughter screaming, "Daddy, no, no, no!" That was actually pretty funny. But just ignoring her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
it was just Brady. Another Tuesday,
and he was in Florida, and he had been drinking, and he was on a boat.
Well,
so
just you know what, and
he's adopting the lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely, and I don't mean anything by this. I'm really don't take this the wrong way, but it just shows you, like, if when he won his first, Lombardi Trophy, I'm sure he was very careful with it. It's like your first kid and your second kid and your third. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sure he was really careful with it. This is his seventh. Whatever, here, take it.
Yeah.
But
throw it. Here you go. It was funny.
There'll be more. Here, take it. But hey, you know what? Whatever. It was just it was funny looking at that was one thing. But yeah, Boozy Brady coming back on shore.
And just the smile on his face as he walks in.
I don't even think he knew he was smiling.
No,
he probably hasn't had a drink in a year and a half.
Right.
Well, he was like the guy that he gets drunk, he breaks a plate glass window, and he gets arrested, but he forgot what he did.
Yeah, he didn't even remember.
So he thinks the cops are giving him a ride home. They got him by the arm.
He was like your aunt who had.
You guys are so nice for taking me home. They're taking him to the station.
He's like your aunt who had her third Chardonnay and never had before. You know what I mean? And she's walking in her heels and her wig falls off.
Right.
It's just, good for him.
Yeah, I agree. It was funny, and it was a human moment, and again, he didn't do any damage. He didn't drive or do anything dumb like that. So
I will tell you this, and I don't. From everything that it seems like Tom Brady's teammates like Tom Brady.
You think?
Yeah.
And that guy has a way of kind of balancing the line between mentor and teammate. And look, there's talk of OBJ going. To
I heard that too.
Maybe he's the asshole whisperer, and he can, get these fucking idiots to actually behave.
Listen, winning
Tom
is
Brady,
the great
asshole whisperer.
Winning is the great panacea, right?
That's right. Shut the fuck up. You want to,
come here. Shut the hell up.
Trophy? Then shut the hell up and listen to me.
Yeah. Well, look, he brought Gronk out of retirement. He got Leonard Fournette, who was not playing. He brought AB came in. AB never said a word. The guy was a saint from the moment he got there.
Just caught a touchdown pass and
caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl.
Everybody he brought there no one was on the team. In 2019, everybody he brought there with him or after him were the only ones that scored in the Super Bowl.
I didn't watch a lot of the footage of this stuff. Of course, I saw shaky legs Brady. I didn't see Bruce Arians. Was he in the drunk tank from the night before, or what? Was he there?
He might have been staying away. He might have been driving the boat.
I didn't see him at all.
I hope he was.
He might have been driving the boat.
That'd be great.
And teetotaling it, just going. I'm going to make sure everyone.
I got the boat.
I doubt that.
Well, at least until he docked.
Yeah.
Maybe once the parade over, I would imagine he had a couple of.
Yeah. He looks like he would drive a boat, doesn't he?
I think he has in the past.
Probably.
So prior to Well, he did have those 2 years off.
He was a tugboat driver before he became offensive coordinator.
He's
he went to Boston. That's where he first met Brady. He was up in Boston driving the tugboat.
Right. Yeah,
he's the incredible tugboat driving.
That's right.
I got to come up with some
incredible
rhymes.
Tugboat driving,
football
coaching,
thriving.
football thriving.
football thriving, impossible football coach.
There you
Of
go.
Tampa.
Like that.
I hope there's a movie about him one day. Jim Gaffigan gets to play him. He fascinates me. I don't think anybody
Bruce
really
Arians
knows.
or Jim Gaffigan?
Well, Bruce Arians, because I think we know more about Jim Gaffigan. I don't think anybody really knows anything about Bruce Arians. And
Probably not.
yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a funny story. Funny to me. Last year, I don't know, a couple years ago, I was at the gym. So pre-COVID. And I was on the bike, and they have a bunch of big TVs up that you watch. And no sound, they have music pumping in. But for a brief moment, there was a picture of Andy Reid and a close-up of Wilford Brimley on two separate screens at the same moment.
That's pretty good.
And it was a perfect moment.
And a walrus on the third.
That's right. The only way you could tell them,
washed up on the beach dead in a third.
the only way you could tell them apart is that one of them had a clipboard the size of an Arby's menu, a Denny's menu in front of there.
And I was like,
not the Denny's menu on the wall. That's what you're talking about.
Right,
there's a movie to be made there. But yeah, it was a beautiful moment of
no more.
Yeah, right. But it was a beautiful moment of serendipity.
Well, maybe Andy Reid could become the new face of Quaker Oats.
Why not?
I don't think he's eaten them ever since he was a kid. Unless there's Quaker Oats sausage flavored. I don't think.
Well, listen, too much of anything.
Quaker Oats flavored sausage.
Too much of anything is bad for you.
Flavored Quaker Oats.
I use Quaker Oats. I use it to beef up my bison patties. I use it as sawdust in my garage when
hamburgers, sausage and peppers, pizza, you name it. Yeah. I just add a little Quaker Oats.
You mix some of the Quaker Oats in with your sausage gravy that you put over your biscuits. That's it. So.
It's not a bad idea.
Biscuits and gravy and oats.
Why the hell not?
All right, there we go, and that's football.
And that's football. There you go. Well, pretty much actually. We'll I don't think there's anything much going on. We are a month away, or a little less than a month away from free agency. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer.
I do just want to mention one thing. For whatever reason, I've been listening to Denver Sports Radio, which usually drives me insane. But there is actually more than one person talking about the potential of Sam Darnold coming to the Broncos. Yeah, that's how desperate the Broncos are.
I've heard that.
They're talking about Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Darnold and who would be better. That's how desperate the Broncos are for a quarterback.
Well, but I think isn't it also kind of how desperate sports talk is right now?
Well, is that
because I've heard Sam Darnold going anywhere. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say you're absolutely right. It's a testament to the state of sports radio right now because there's everybody wants to talk. I was reading something this afternoon. Everybody wants to talk about football. You got a ton of NBA action going on right now. You got pitchers and catchers reporting today, and everybody's still talking football.
Well, it's because
including
Westbrook. It's because Russell Westbrook spoke up, and the draft projections, and who has draft choices. Look, there's a lot of teams with high draft picks who have shitty quarterbacks, and there's a direct correlation to that.
Right.
So, who's going to get who, and who has draft picks to trade? Mm-hmm. And I think the Jets could get something decent out of if they take a quarterback, which they very well may. I think they still could get a couple decent draft picks for Sam Darnold, and he's probably going to battle it out somewhere else with a Andy Dalton or a Teddy Bridgewater or
Yeah, I don't.
Who knows?
I don't think a lot of this stuff is going to materialize as far as and who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. With Deshaun Watson and Russell
Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook, yeah. Russell Westbrook is going to
that would be a
quarterback in the Seahawks.
He'd probably be a pretty good quarterback.
But in any event, I just think that the Jets should probably keep their eye on Zach Wilson. So, but we'll cross that bridge when it happens.
They can do is fuck that up.
But yeah, I was just going to ask you though. You think that whole Sam Darnold thing with Denver is the new GM, or because isn't Elway still in love with Drew Lock?
I think Elway has boat legs all the time. By the way, Elway's like Jordan. He couldn't pick a fucking player his life depended on it. Elway needs to just get the fuck out of the way, which is why he hired somebody else to do
job.
All of this.
Right.
I think he says that publicly, A, because he was his pick, and B, because if they do wind up with him, they don't want him to be, aware that they're looking for another quarterback. But no, nobody here is excited about Drew Lock. And, the Broncos are a franchise that typically do not sit in the gutter for this long. It wasn't, 6 years ago they won a Super Bowl. So they went from Elway to Peyton Manning with a few distractions along the way, and now they just have not been able to find a quarterback. So the hope and the prayer here in Denver is Russell Westbrook. That's what Russell Wilson. I'll tell you what, Russell Westbrook right now in Denver we'll talk about that too, would also be a help.
All right.
But that's who the dream is. But Denver sports fans are just so unrealistic. I mean, I think they've all turned to the Broncos getting a new quarterback because they're just so dismayed about the Rockies, the ownership there.
That's ridiculous. So
but they're realistic. I mean, when you listen to some of these guys, they're realistic in saying, well, maybe we'll get a Teddy Bridgewater, or maybe we'll get a Sam Darnold. If that's who you're hoping for, then that tells you everything about where Denver stands on Drew Lock.
Right. Well, let me ask you.
Drew Lock is horrible. He's worse than Sam Darnold.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. That's exactly my point. If you have Drew Lock, if Drew Lock's your starting quarterback, and you have the prospect of getting either Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Darnold, I know it's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but is it going to improve your team?
Well, the Broncos have they have some talent, and the thing is that they were the worst offense in the NFL last year, I think. And so, yeah. They have enough talent where they obviously need an upgrade at that position. Look, Drew Lock's one of I think maybe the only one that I can definitively say I would not want coming to the Giants to replace Daniel Jones. I'd be open to almost any other quarterback in the NFL, including Sam Darnold. So that tells you where they're at. But there's been a lot of chatter.
Yep.
And I think too, it's just Denver is a market that if you speak up enough, and then maybe you at least get into the conversation, and other people mention it. Right. So it's a marketing game to some degree.
I got you. That makes sense. Well, on that note, why don't we? You mentioned Russell Westbrook, and since he plays basketball, why don't we get into a little basketball chatter right now? Probably a good way since to get the kick off the show 18 minutes in. Why the hell not? So. Let's talk. Let's start out with the wearing the Knicks colors right now. Why don't we start off with the Knickerbockers?
Let's talk about the Knicks, like everyone else did. I just think. Listen, the Nets, with some good reason, are always the redheaded stepchild.
No. Maybe on New York sports, but there's
no on New York sports, which is what I listen to, and here's what I'm saying.
Nobody talks about the Knicks outside of New York.
No, but I'm saying what I am exposed to now. They're all in love. Everyone's in love with the Knicks now.
Well, I mean,
Derrick Rose came and they won a couple games over the weekend, and now it's about the playoffs. And
they're in the playoffs. Which
right now they're in the playoffs. They're in sixth place right now in the East.
That's all it took for everyone in this town who's a professional at this, other than John and I, of course, and you on this podcast. Everybody's just in love with the Knicks, and it's the Knicks and the Knicks and the Knicks.
I don't think everybody's in love with them. I just think
they
talk about them.
That's the number one.
There's a lot more chatter about the Knicks right now because of the way they're playing and because of the way the team's coming together. Look,
and how great it is,
and they're playing and they're leading by 3. They're leading the Magic right now too. But I mean,
they've been playing a lot of shitty teams, which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they've been winning those games, which they should be winning.
The Nets have won.
No, the story about the Nets.
The Nets have won 4 more games than the Knicks and are only behind them by 3. And the Knicks are only behind them by 3 in the loss column.
Yeah.
That should be the story of New York. Now, James Harden had a hell of a performance last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the Nets have 87 times more talent than the Knicks.
The Nets were 7-11 as of a couple of days, I guess. 8-11 now or whatever against teams with a record under 500.
But they have one of the best records with winning teams.
With winning teams,
right?
Yeah, they really do.
All you hear now is, the Nets are great. They have a lot of offense, but they can't play defense. Well, now let's talk about the Knicks.
Well, that's it, because right now the Knicks have something that the Nets don't have and are not going to have anytime soon, and that's that they play defense. Right? They're right now playing the best defense in the NBA.
Come on, the Nets just signed Andre Robertson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instant defense, right?
Done.
That points per game is going to drop from 129 to 127.5.
The Knicks right now.
The Nets could have signed Robbie Robertson, and no one would give a shit. Look, as much points as the Nets score, and as exciting as they are, there are moments in those games where it's so fucking boring because it looks like layup drills. Yeah. It just looks like an exhibition of European League basketball in the 70s. It's just up and down and up and down. And yeah, the most dynamic player on the Nets in the last month has been Kyrie when he decides to play. Yeah. And this is the biggest thing the Nets have to worry about is durability.
Well, listen, Kyrie just went 9 for 11 from 3-point land, and
Kyrie's doing great. But then
he's doing great.
But then he's out, and Durant's out, and they're fragile. Yeah. I'm sick of these fucking fragile athletes. Everybody's a fragile athlete in the NBA now.
Durant's out for a bunch of games. He comes
who hasn't
COVID
missed
list, and then he plays one game, and he's got a hammy.
Who hasn't missed a game this year? LeBron.
There you go.
Yeah.
Although I will say this,
and James Harden, you're probably right. James Harden.
I don't think it's really. I'm starting to think that Steve Nash is a quiet genius.
No, he's not.
In this respect, not only did he make the brilliant decision to make James Harden the point guard and Kyrie Irving the shooting guard, but
that was the only decision.
Was that his?
He did it was the easiest decision to make.
Hear me out. He did it in a way that he made Kyrie think it was his idea that he came up with on the fly, and he let Kyrie announce it to the press. That is brilliant.
Well, it's coaching. Not that hard. Kyrie thinks the world is flat. So
I'm obviously being facetious here.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely astounding that they just apparently decided that one day, and then hopefully they told Steve Nash.
James Harden has always been one of the best assist guys in the NBA.
He's leading the league in assists.
And he is a true point guard. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, on this Nets team, he kind of reminds me of like Walt Frazier, because he has guys to pass it to now who could knock this shit down.
Well, the Nets
should be, I think they will be. I think they'll be the number one seed going into the playoffs in the East. I think they are, without a doubt, the best team in the East, and I think they can beat Milwaukee and Philadelphia.
Well,
I just wonder if they bothered to tell Steve Nash of that decision, or if he just happened to notice it when the next game started.
I think they're all like
I want to be a fly on the wall at a practice and see who runs it.
It's like a yoga retreat in Big Sur in 1973. Nobody gives a shit. Hell, whatever. Steve Nash. Do you remember Steve Nash as a player? I mean. I think the Phoenix Suns used to win 168 to 163. He's not. There's never going to be a hard-nosed defensive style.
That was a good day defense.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And you know what? The Nets are going to win games. But to Pete's point before, I think that the reason that New York. Well, look. The Knicks are New York basketball, and
I agree. I'm being half facetious about it, but but people are desperate for the Knicks.
Well, but they're also the underdog now. For the first time, they're the underdog, and they're playing well. True. And I'll tell you what, because I was going in my head, I was like, okay, there's the obvious people that should be at the top of the list for MVP this year, but there's two guys who jump to the top of my list who no one ever talks about, who their team would be nowhere without them. And Julius Randle is one of those players.
Randle's playing like crazy right now.
Now, the ball dies in his hand. And I'm not sure adding another scorer to this Knicks team helps them so much.
Right.
What he needs is another shooter, a pure shooter. Right. That's, but which is why Oladipo would be good because he's also a good defensive player. And I think he would fit in well with the way in which, because they're kind of running a bit of a, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of old school. It's very Tom Thibodeau. The guy who touches the ball the most is in the post, or at least up high, in the high post, just with the ball in his hand. And I like it. I think Randall's has to be on the short list of the most improved player this year, along with Jeremy Grant on the Pistons. But
how do we feel about, because they're talking now about Randall's potential trade bait?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, when I look at the trade bait, I hear Randall, Knox, Nerlens, or however the hell you say his name.
Well, now they need Nerlens Noel until what's his name?
Nerlens Noel can't go anywhere until Mitchell Robinson.
But if the Knicks can get what they want, look, Knox, Frank Nicolita, all those guys, trade them. You get anything for him. Knox hasn't played, I don't think, in 4 games.
Well, those are the guys they kept out of the Derrick Rose trade.
Right.
So obviously they value them. But a guy like Randall, he's playing great right now, but you just look at what he did last year. He did not play great.
Okay.
So you have to wonder. Well, but my point is, you wonder if that's going to continue.
Because we've had such a great streak of top draft picks. So we get another Kevin Knox. Maybe we could, I mean, New York has a problem. They don't draft NBA players from Duke. They draft football players from Duke. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
If the names I hear are obviously Oladipo.
Not for Randall. You have to add Oladipo to this team already. And if whatever they want for Oladipo, you would have to re-sign him. So you'd have to trade for him and then re-sign him because his contract's up.
Right. But he's the name that I hear people talking about. And
I hear Oladipo and Kyle. Well, if you can get Bradley Beal without getting rid of Julius Randle,
I don't know if you could do that though.
Then you do it. Well, then you're not ahead. I don't think you're not ahead now. If you can, I think Victor Oladipo on this team moves them into the 5th or 6th seed in the East, and they can maybe win, a series in the playoffs. Bradley Beal. Number one, Bradley Beal has had other players, other all-stars in his backcourt with him. Arguably, maybe one of the, with him and John Wall, one of the most talented backcourts in the NBA.
Yeah, but nobody played well with John Wall. But
they can't seem to win games. And my problem is Bradley Beal really who you want on this Knicks team? He's not a great defender. He's a great scorer. So, all right, so say you have to get rid of Julius Randle for Bradley Beal. Number one, Randle's only going to go to a team that is on the bubble and is in the playoffs. Washington doesn't need a Randle. They don't want to get rid of Bradley Beal unless they can get a top-notch draft pick or something else for him, so that they can clear cap space. I think Oladipo is a better fit on this Knicks team, and then I think they're one player away from competing. Now,
but aren't you going? I mean, if you're going to have to give Oladipo, you might have to give him a max contract
in a year. But that's okay.
Well, because he's a free agent after this.
Well, how old is Oladipo?
He's 28. He's going to be unrestricted free agent after the season.
So he's in the prime. He's in his prime.
He's younger than prime.
He's younger than Bradley Beal.
You're going to give him a max contract,
right?
and
what is Bradley Beal? 34.
Yeah, he's up to 33, 34. Yeah, 33 maybe.
Yeah,
is he really that old? I didn't think he was that old.
I think so. Maybe I'm confusing him.
If he's that old, then forget it.
Maybe 32.
No, Bradley Beal is 27.
Okay, so he's younger than I thought he was.
He's got apparently roughly $72 million coming to him over the next 2 years. He'll be a free agent, unrestricted, after 22-23.
So, I mean, look,
I still would do Oladipo.
Because I feel like you need more than one. A team with one star is the Washington. You're just basically becoming the Washington Wizards.
Right.
I mean, if you get. Randall is literally the best player on the Knicks by a lot.
Yeah, to me, that's the difference. Is I think you can get Oladipo here without giving up Randall.
I agree.
I don't think you can do that with Beal.
No, and I don't think you want Beal.
Beal, I think he's a better. Look.
You think the Knicks are better without a big man? They have no big men, so you're going to get rid of Julius Randle.
Between Beal and Oladipo, Beal is a better player,
of course, but Oladipo and Randle are better than Bradley Beal and fucking Frank Nicolita and Kevin Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and while
Kevin Knox has been a bust, and the Knicks have to get rid of him now while there's still some value for him.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think Oladipo's the way to go with that.
Look, you forget that you got Barrett, who now becomes a third option. That's a pretty good lineup, and then I think with their second string looks really good, especially with Rose coming in off the bench, and then I think they're one more big man away, unless Mitchell Robinson can get healthy and play where he was last year, because he had a really good year last year.
Right. Well, they say he had surgery on his hand the other day. They say 4 to 6 weeks. They say 4 to 6 weeks.
So you got
not like he's out the rest of the season. It's gonna
right.
So Noel's got to step it up. He's not obviously that entire replacement, anywhere near that entire replacement for Robinson. But
I think Beal is too expensive, and it puts them too much back in the hole. Right now, they have the opportunity. I think they could sign Oladipo and keep some of these other guys, and that's what that's the name of the game right now.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, look, like you're saying,
plus Oladipo is gonna fit into Thibodeau's system better. He's a good defensive player.
Yeah, you're right, and Beal's not. So, Randall's just playing lights out, though. I mean, he would have 44 points the other night.
He's playing lights out, but the question that you have to ask Randall is that if we get another guy here, are you willing to have 5, 6, 7 less touches and hit the glass harder than you have in the last? That's really the question with Randall. Right now, the one thing I noticed watching the Knicks is that their ball movement is not great. Right. They're very efficient. And they're shooting okay, and they play good defense, which is what keeps them in the game. But their ball movement is not great. It's a little better with Rose in there and the second string because they can spread it out a little bit more. But it does sort of stick. Everybody used to criticize Carmelo. Randall's very similar, but I think with an Oladipo to pass it to, I think it fits with this team. Because they're kind of a post pick and roll. I think Oladipo fits in with this.
I agree.
Any interest in Andre Drummond?
Yeah, but what are you going to pay for him? I feel like he's like this year's Boogie Cousins. He just, he's like a really nice Kia. I don't want to pay that much for him. I don't need a Kia with
great analogy.
I think, and I also think that he's a missing piece on a look. I think the Nuggets could use him. I think the Lakers could use him.
$80,000 Hyundai.
Right. I mean, he's a good role player for a team that already has what they're needing as far as
right.
And I think the Knicks already have players similar to him, especially if Mitchell Robinson comes back healthy. They have that kind of grit already. They need somebody who can scare the shit out of you from the perimeter.
Right.
And Andre Drummond's obviously not that. Although he's a pretty good shooter. But he's not going to light it up like that. But he's going to be a piece. Well, I mean, if the Clippers can get him, I think especially with Anthony Davis, I think you're going to see him. The Lakers approach him pretty hard.
Right.
All right, and finally, at least unless there's anybody else you guys are interested in, any interest in Blake Griffin?
No,
I don't want him.
I don't really know what he doesn't play above the rim anymore.
Now, remember when Kenyon Martin learned how to play really gritty defense and became like a good piece? I feel like Blake Griffin is Kenyon Martin without the ability to play that kind of team defense. When he could play above the rim, he was fantastic. He might also be one of those guys like a Carmelo on Portland who can come in and maybe overperform if he's not required to sort of be a 1 or a 2 go-to guy. Right. And you could see that in Detroit. I mean, Grant has sort of taken over.
Yeah, if you've got enough other options, then he can sort of get lost in the mix and kind of quietly have solid games for you. But
if he can play against second string,
what if you can get him pretty cheap? And
if you can get him for cheap, yeah.
Might be
You
a good guy coming off the bench for you.
Yeah.
And at this point, he's probably willing to take any role he'll.
But what does he get? What is he getting
Get
paid?
the hell out of
he's getting paid a pretty big chunk of change because didn't Detroit take on his contract and wasn't it a long-term deal?
I don't know what he's getting paid. I'm sure it's a lot.
It was, yeah.
It's got to be a lot.
I think all signs, money-wise, even though he's got to get a max contract next year, fitting in to Tibbs' system, defense-wise, I think the best bet, hands down, above anybody else that is a possibility, is Victor Oladipo.
Yeah,
and it starts and ends right there, and I think that's the move that needs to be made. And get him. They got a lot of draft capital. Move a couple of pieces. Maybe you can get rid of Knox in the deal. I mean, and hopefully keep Randall, and make it work. I mean,
Griffin.
He's in I think year 4 of a 5-year contract.
Making $36.5 million this year.
Oh, that's chump change.
Next year it'll be 30, basically 39. He'll be 32 years old. After that, he'll be a free agent.
Next year is the last year of his contract. So he's in the 4th year of a 5-year contract, $171 million contract.
Yeah. So it's going to cost. It's going to cost.
I like Blake Griffin. I just I'm trying to say, okay, let's try to get a player and then change the personality of the Knicks team, have a shitty season, get a new. The Knicks are committed to Thibodeau, and he has players who have bought into his system. So I think a Blake Griffin would do that. I think he's a good role player now.
Right.
And look,
it's going to cost you almost as much for him as it would for, let's say, Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
over the next couple of years. So
yeah, no, you don't go after. The Knicks already have their Blake Griffin, and it's
right. Yeah, unless you can get Detroit to, eat some of that contract. But
the guy I want on the Knicks from Detroit is Jeremy Grant. That's who he's the difference. He's the reason why the Nuggets are performing nowhere near what they did last year.
Right.
Well, I wanted to bring up a couple other things too, if I may.
Sure.
Draymond Green's comments and the practice of sitting players like Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond and anybody else when they are on the block, when teams are looking to trade them and they don't want them to play. And Draymond Green said there's an inequity to that. And basically it was crap. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that because it's an interesting situation.
It's crap with Draymond Green.
What the owners are doing. He said what the owners are doing is.
Yeah, I agree with them. Although I have a hard and fast rule to never fucking listen to Draymond Green. He might be the one NBA player I despise the most in the entire league.
But is he right about this?
I think that it's a business decision, and unfortunately, I think that the owners have a right to do whatever the hell they want to do. And
fair enough.
It's the equivalent of somebody coming out in his junior year versus his senior year because he doesn't want to threaten getting hurt in his value. Now, granted, that's the player's decision. I think what Draymond's getting at is that the owners are forcing this and that it's unfair. And I agree with them. It is unfair. But we've seen this. We see this a lot in many sports. And I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other. I don't think this is some sort of the owners, taking away the players' rights or anything like that. It's just
that's kind of how it's being portrayed as a sign of disrespect, and there is. I mean, we are seeing now, and maybe I would imagine we'll continue to see players, right, forcing their way out, right? I'm talking about.
Well, you can't have it both ways. I guess that's my response to Draymond Green is that everybody criticized all of these players who are forcing their way out, like Harden, and now, so is it just the players do whatever the fuck they want?
Well, that's what it's boiling down to. Draymond Green's basically saying, we're the players. We can go anywhere we want, do whatever we want to do, but if you're going to trade us, you can't do this, you can't do that. We still have to have a say. I mean, I don't. It's like having your cake and eating it too. It's bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. See, I don't really get the lack of respect angle because to me,
the player's a commodity. The player's a commodity,
right?
And
but
the team's making the deal, and they want the deal to go through. And on the outside shot that the player gets hurt and the deal doesn't happen, then the team is screwed for that deal.
But
so
my
they're
point
just coming
is,
and it's a game. It's not like they're sitting them out for a month, you know.
Right. But also I feel like it's not, number one, the sign of respect is the amount of money that you're paying these guys.
Right.
You're paying somebody $20 million to play a game. That's the respect that you're giving them.
Yeah, they're sitting them and saying they're not going to get their paid for that game. That's a different story.
But the point that Green is making is like, if you're whatever, almost any other profession, and really what it boils down to, if you're not under contract and you don't like your job, you can up and leave.
Sure.
And but
you can if you're under contract,
right? And that's I think where his argument kind of falls apart.
If you do, you wind up losing money, or you wind up getting stuck in a non-compete clause, or whatever other case there might be. And they're not making $36 million to shoot 30% from the field.
That's the whole point. Is they're not making that rebounds a game. Right. If you're a doctor and you work at hospital A, you could leave and go to hospital B. And I imagine there are contract situations.
I get where Draymond's coming from, and there is a long history of disrespect and an uneven playing field when it comes to. But if there's any sport, and I think all sports have moved in this way, and I think it's rightfully so, that the balance of power now resides, I think, more with the players. Now, maybe Draymond's got a point here, but what is the disrespect of sitting him? All you're doing is protecting an asset.
Yeah, I don't understand what the again, it's probably not going to sit for that long.
No.
So I don't denying his right to play. I don't get that.
Here's where you can have your cake and eat it too. Okay, is that if the owners don't require the coach to sit somebody that's on the trading block, then the coaches can't rest their all-star player when somebody's paying $500 for a courtside seat, and then all of a sudden, fill in the blank is rested for fucking maintenance control.
Well, right. Well, that's another part of the argument too, right. Is that if these are superstar players or really good players that you're looking to trade,
I don't know,
and now you're sitting.
We're talking about Draymond Green, and that's that is the problem I have with all of this. Is that I just can't stand the guy.
Forget that it's him that said it.
Right.
The point is, the issue itself, I think, is interesting, but I don't. You're paying them so much money, and again, you're not talking about sitting the guy down for 3 months.
No.
Who knows what they're going to do?
I mean, if it takes you that long
if it takes you 3 months to do a trade, then and this is one of your better players, and you're sitting him out, then you're throwing the season away, and that's a whole other issue in and of itself. But if that's the case, then I completely agree with Draymond Green. If that's the case, if it's that long.
Like you should
a game or two, because and the deal is getting done, it's not just a whim or something like that. That's a different story. That's a completely.
But also
in
other contract situations or employment situations, if you're, I'm trying to think what other job you would have a contract with.
All sorts of jobs,
right? Yeah. But I'm saying you wouldn't be trading employees between companies that do the same thing. That just doesn't happen outside.
And the next guy you're going to hire, I get too. That's
All right. Sanitation, right? Sanitation's a great example, right? Sanitation companies get hired by municipalities, right, to pick up the garbage.
Right.
So those guys might be under contract. You're not going to trade.
Well, let's look at it.
Trade guys from one truck to
let's look at it a little differently. You could have somebody who's under a contract. A company a merger happens. Okay, they're at the director of something or a VP or whatever the case might be, and their job is now redundant. So if they are in a contract and they have a non-compete clause, if they decide to leave, then that company that is absorbing that, has to say, okay, we're gonna allow you to get out of this. We're gonna give you some sort of deal, or you're gonna stick around for the next 4 years and work out your contract. Right. So that protects that employee to some degree in that, okay, I have a contract, so I can't walk away from here with nothing. and at least I'm walking away with my freedom, which I didn't necessarily have if I had a non-compete. So I think that's probably more of what's going on here. It's not like, you're going to be sat and then all of a sudden you're going to be on online trying to fill out employment forms for to get unemployment. I mean, right. My violin playing for this is not it's not very strong. I get where he's coming from. I'm not saying I disagree with them, but there's a lot of other, if we really want to talk about employment and unfairness in labor and what people are making, then that's a whole other topic. But this is absolutely ridiculous.
But also you're talking about, you did sign the contract.
Right.
And now you want to break it. And yet you want to, have.
Well, the player's not looking to break it. The owner's looking.
No, but I'm saying in the case of players who want to leave,
right? It goes both. That's why I'm saying it goes both ways.
You signed a contract as a player, and you're forcing your way out of it,
which obviously doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right?
What did we we're talking about all these quarterbacks. All of these quarterbacks that we're talking about are all players that are under contract that are looking to get out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, look, it's you can look at the same thing in baseball with salaries and stuff, right? The pendulum swings one way for decades. The owners own the players and they make nothing, right? They have to have second jobs and all that. And then slowly it swings in the other direction and the players get more control and the union gets stronger. And then they're making, $45 million a year.
I think the owners are trying to get back a little bit of equity in the situation. And I think it's a lost cause. I think we're just I think unless contracts have some more teeth to them, I do not think I think it's a 1, 2, 3. If I was an owner, I would not sign anybody to more than a 3-year contract, because even if I have them long-term, they're going to be so unhappy that I'm going to get fucking nothing for them. Right. It all started with Kawhi Leonard. That's where it all started
with Ryan Leaf.
Well, the Chargers were really happy to get out of that contract.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it started with the fact, and look, it's happening again. When a player wants to go somewhere else, they're going to go. It might not be exactly where they want to go, but for the top 50 players in the NBA right now, 40 players in the NBA, wherever they want to go, they're going to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Let's getting back to the Knicks. Just to finish that up, I just wanted to give a couple of comments that were on we're going around on a couple of the groups and some of the pundits on radio and TV and that. Kind of back to your original point there, Pete, with the Nets being a redheaded stepchild, but the Knicks getting all the press right now because of what they're doing. But rightfully so, though. I mean, they're exceeding expectations right now. They were not.
Do you guys watch SportsCenter? Do you guys watch? I mean,
no,
I don't watch SportsCenter. No,
I mean, the Knicks are an afterthought. The Nets are everywhere.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't
Nationally, the Nets get eight times more coverage than the Knicks.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Well, right, but they should. I mean, they have 3 of the biggest stars in the game.
Once in a blue moon, I'll have ESPN on, but I watch more local SNY.
Yeah. Listen to more local stuff.
MLB Network, the NFL Network, and stuff.
And I'm being half facetious anyway, but
But I know you.
When I say, look, I'm just going to not bother. I'm going to watch the games, but I'm not going to listen to sports radio or nothing local until the end of the season because it's just going to be all Knicks from now on.
Well, look, the Knicks are down by 6. And the only person with the plus anything other than Taj Gibson is Julius Randle.
It's Julius Randle. He's got 21 points. Right
He's 21 points at plus 6. Everybody else is in the negative.
Mm-hmm. Well, you better hope Taj Gibson does something. He's their big man, one of their big men for the next 6 weeks.
Well, yeah, he's played 9 minutes already, which is, I think, double what he's played all season.
Yeah, he's got 2 points.
But yeah, I mean, the team's buying in. And Tibbs' defensive, and his game plan.
But how far can it go? That's the problem with the time.
Because that's like, okay, as a Knicks fan. Well, you guys are both Knicks fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
No,
so as You're not. Okay. So
yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Well, you mean you're just wearing the jersey. So
I know. Yeah.
You're today. You are.
Well,
as Knicks fans,
basketball one. So
we talked about this last week. But what is it you guys want? Do you want to make some moves, whatever they are, and try and get a win maybe in the first round of the playoffs? Do you want to go with this young team? You've got Derrick Rose. Let this play out. See what develops.
Derrick Rose is an afterthought. Derrick Rose coming off the bench. He's going to give you 10 points a game.
He's good.
But I'm saying he's a move that they made. Okay,
yeah. and it was a cheap, good move.
Right, he made the team better to whatever degree.
Right,
but as Knicks fans, what do you want here? Do you want to see what develops this season, or do you want to maybe trade some of these pieces and try and bring in a bigger name to help you get a little
I would
farther?
like to trade are Knox, Ntilikina, and maybe a draft pick or two.
Right, every piece of dreck on the team, but you're not going to get anything for that.
Well, I mean,
look, I'm okay with getting rid of Austin Rivers. He hasn't played. Knox quickly. There's.
I don't want to get rid of Quickly. I don't want to get rid of Quickly. Quickly's developing.
It depends on who you can get for him. Your point is, are we going to get a big player? Bradley Beal's not going to want to come to the Knicks unless he has another 2 or 3 players that can sit next to him, because he's going to be in the same boat and maybe a worse situation. So the days of getting one player to come to the Knicks, it's not going to happen because nobody wants to come here.
I'll give you
maybe it's not a. What if it's not a superstar like Beal? Maybe it's a second-tier player.
We need 2 or 3. We need 2 or 3 more, and that's what I'm saying. If you get an Oladipo, yes, because where are we going to be 4 years from now?
Right.
Julius Randle's going to be older. R.J. Barrett's coming into his prime. The Knicks fans. Here's the one. The Knicks fans, I think, are more realistic than the New York media about what the Knicks actually have here. Okay?
Well, the New York media wants clicks and ears and eyes.
Right.
So they're going to engage in hyperbole.
Right. Okay. Then out of all of – let's take the Knicks' top picks from the last X amount of years, or at least their top couple picks, okay? So obviously you have R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett is a good third or fourth option on a championship team.
Right.
Okay, he's maybe the third best player on the
now.
Knicks.
I mean,
right? I don't think he's gonna. I think he's at his prime. Okay?
But he was. I mean, was there anybody during that draft that you said this guy's definitely going to be better than R.J. Barrett?
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying they didn't. The lottery didn't work out the way they wanted, and they took what I think was the best option at the time.
If Klay Thompson is in a deal to come to the New York Knicks, and they want R.J. Barrett, Noel fucking
Nerlens,
Noel, not Noel Nerlens.
Listen to me. Let me finish. And Derrick Rose and Quickly, you get the fuck rid of them. Okay. But if you're going to stick, none of these. Here's who I want to stay on the Knicks right now. Okay. Randall, Peyton, I think, but again, I'm up for him. I think you have to stick with R.J. Barrett because you're getting a deal for him right now because he's still in his original contract. Yeah. Other than that, I don't give a shit. I think Mitchell Robinson is actually one of their top 4 most valuable players. I want
Robinson going anywhere. He's the best.
Right. Other than that, if you can get better players, Frank Nicolina has been seen in the stands more than he's been seen on the court. I don't give a shit about any of these people. I mean, our big move before Derrick Rose is here is Taj Gibson's back. I mean,
it's
so. Listen, if you can get a Victor Oladipo or if you can get a Bradley Beal without disseminating the team, then you do it. I'd rather get Oladipo and another big man who's a defensive-minded person and a shooter who could come in with the second unit than just get Bradley Beal. Because for this Knicks team to win, they have to have the depth. They have to be like the Raptors for a few years ago, minus Kawhi. That's the problem. Julius Randle with the ball in his hand is not going to win you a playoff game. Right now, the way I look at an NBA team is the game is on the line. Who do you give the ball to?
Right now, it's Randle.
Right.
Now, it's Randle.
I don't. But go through that guy on every other team. Is he a Donovan Mitchell? Is he a Kawhi Leonard?
No.
Is he a Victor Oladipo? No. If the league is not built for a power forward or a center to have the ball in their hand with their game on the line, there's maybe 2 or 3 guys in the league who are an exception to that. And even they are not.
They haven't won either.
They haven't won either. So that's my point. And I don't think you're going to get a big name star yet to come to the Knicks. But I do think you can get 2 or 3 all-stars or second team all-stars or borderline all-stars. And if you have those kind of players, then this Knicks team can take advantage of what they're building on. I mean, what else are you waiting for? Who's the free agent at the end of the year who's going to come to the Knicks? It's not going to happen.
There's no free agents at the end of the year that are going to say, "Hey, you know what? Next move, I'm coming to the Knicks." They're not saying that. They're not saying that
because
you got to get them here. Let them get them here.
Well, but what if the Knicks play well? They're around 500. They get into the playoffs. They doubtful they'll win a series.
Then
surely you could lure somebody here.
You can lure a Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, and I think if you can get in here beforehand and win that series, maybe finish 6th, maybe even sneak into that 5th spot. So you're not playing the Bucks, you're not playing the Sixers, you're not playing the Nets,
right?
And then you can win that first playoff series.
You know, look, we're talking about how the Knicks are on the verge. They're down by 13 to the Orlando Magic.
That's a fluke.
It's not.
Well, there's 11 and a half minutes left in the
but I mean, they're a middle of the road team right now.
Right.
Do they get better with other players? Yeah, without a doubt. Look, there's 2 or 3 players. I mean, is Reggie Bullock really must keep?
No.
I don't know. He's got a cool name.
I know. I think Randall and Barrett are the guys you build around.
J. Bullock?
Bullock's got the name that the coach wants to yell. Bullock! Right. Get in there. Yeah. All right, enough about the Knicks. I want to talk about something.
One other thing.
Of course. I'm gonna go
I
get
say
some
3 words, and
I'm gonna go get some coffee while you guys finish talking about the Knicks.
I have one question regarding Randall, and I put it to both of you because we've been talking, obviously, keying on him and everything else. My question is this: is he an All-Star this year?
He should be.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Why not?
Is he a voted an All-Star? Is he the coach's? Yeah.
Who's the better power forward?
He would have to be a coach's.
I mean, you automatically have Giannis as the best power forward in the East. Who's I mean, I'm sick of centers being called power forwards.
Right. Well, I mean that's always been it's been the case for a while now that happens. But I agree with you. But I think I agree with you. But I agree with Pete. I think I think he's going to be an All-Star, but I think it's going to be a coach's vote. All-Star.
Yeah, it's probably the case.
Let's see. Well, you got Durant, Giannis, Embiid,
Tatum,
Butler.
Don't the fans vote for the All-Stars?
Well, Gordon Hayward is your number 9.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Where's Randall on that list?
I'm sure he's probably not even on
number
there.
8. He's number 8.
He's number 8.
And that proves to you. And where is Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden?
Durant is 1. Kyrie Irving is 2 behind Bradley Beal. And James Harden is 3 behind Kyrie.
So the Knicks are definitely the talk of the town. Give me a break.
Listen to the fan. Tune up the fan on your computer there. All right.
Well, that's because
I stopped listening to the fan when Mike and the Mad Dog.
That's because all Carton wants to talk about is the Knicks.
Not the fan. I don't even listen to the fan. Listen to ES. Even on the.
I know what you're talking about.
Michael K show.
I think it's only because
they're all about hype anyway. So.
I think right now it's talking about. I think the Knicks are more interesting because it's about can they finally get somebody to come here, whereas the Nets are kind of set. Their roster's set. They've got 3 of the top 10 players in the NBA on one team. What the fuck else do you want?
Right.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to something that's more important.
Go for it.
Well, maybe not more important, but interesting to me. Although, again, it's a kind of an older story. But with a different angle, the Mavericks were not playing the national anthem before games.
Right.
And now they are, because I guess fans are going to start coming back.
Right.
And but my question in a larger sense is,
I think the NBA actually had something to
do.
The
NBA, made them said, you're going to...
Sorry, Mr. Cuban, you have to play the national anthem.
Yeah. And it was his decision not to.
Right.
And then, of course, to start to, although, again, it was the NBA's decision. But my question is, do we really need the national anthem before sporting games anymore?
I don't think so.
Or did we ever need it?
We don't play it before. No, we don't play it before a play. We don't do it. We don't play it before a concert. Why are sporting events so?
I don't know.
You know what? I can't give you the history on it. I really don't. I really can't.
I mean, I think it's forced patriotism, and I think
well, there's talk about the NFL and the color guard and having the military there, and how they were actually paying the NFL to have those guys on the field and to have the jets flying overhead and stuff. Paid advertising with the league for military recruitment, but. Right. I'm wondering if it's just something that's time has really passed, if it ever really was a necessity. No, but I don't think it's going anywhere because people that's the anthem, man. If you don't love that, then you don't love America.
You know what? I'm not.
They can still love it, but what does it have to do with basketball? Well, football games?
They confuse the anthem with patriotism, and
Right. Well, it's kind of like the thing. The way I look at it, it's whatever the original reason was, it forced patriotism, maybe military, get people interested in coming to the military. 120 years ago in baseball games back in the late 1800s, whatever it was, whenever it started, I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't speak specific on that, but I think it's just become. At this point, whatever, if there are any underlying things from the military or whatever that may be, it's a tradition at this point. Because I'll tell you, no matter where it is, no matter where I am, just me personally, whenever the national anthem is playing, and I'm not saying whatever goes on during it or whatever, but in my mind, whether I actually say it as a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing or I just think it, when the national anthem is over, no matter where it is and where I hear it, in my mind at least, if not out loud, I say play ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
but here's the issue is that now it's become controversial because people are protesting.
Right.
So maybe it's time to end that protest by getting rid of it. Say if we're going to have people that sit or they're going to kneel, and then other people are going to get angry about that, then why not just stop playing it?
I think you're going to have, and I'm not speaking one way or the other. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I think definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if you get rid of it, there's going to be more people up in arms about that than about people kneeling. That's where I
enough so that they. Well, listen, there's people that, and I don't know how truthful this is, but people that go, well, I won't watch football. I won't watch a team play if they let their players kneel.
Bullshit.
If they don't respect the anthem, I don't watch it.
You know what? They're full of shit.
There might be a few
that don't, but I will tell you, almost everybody that I've heard of, whether they told me directly or I saw it on Facebook or whatever, I'm not watching the NFL this year. They're going to kneel. I'm not doing that. Blah, blah, blah. Screw them. They still watched.
Of course. If the NBA just said, you know what, we're not going to play the anthem anymore. Don't play the anthem. And it went away like that.
Right.
Those people would be angry for a couple of weeks, and then that would be it. Right?
Exactly. And
then there's no controversy.
Right.
They'll yell and scream, oh, blah, 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 blah. We need the anthem. It's it's a tradition. It's part of the game. And other people would go, yeah, well, it causes a lot of controversy, so we're getting rid of it. Right? Because that's kind of what you can do with things that cause controversy that aren't intrinsically necessary to the product or whatever it is. You get rid of it.
Right.
So. All right, I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I said, I don't have you know what? You're right. You're right. And not to say that I think they should get rid of it or I think they shouldn't get rid of it, but just in general, you're right. If there's an issue and an issue is going to continue over and over and over again, year in, year out, whatever it is, this or anything else, and if it's not part of whatever it is you're there for, get rid of it. Yeah, and then you have no issue anymore.
Ask Draymond what he thinks, and then do whatever he thinks.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty much the arbiter of all.
Of everything. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like the and my wife and I, we always talk about this when we go to a school function, like a concert or a play or whatever.
We're down by 17 by right now. Just want to let you know.
They're coming back. We go to something at the school, and we all have to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
We're there for a concert, and they make the audience stand.
What's better is when they try to make you sit in the kid's desk.
Well,
on parent-teacher night.
I sit on the heater.
I've done that a bunch. That's fun.
I go to parents' night, or you go around to your you follow your kid's schedule, and the teachers look at me and they go, "Do you want to take a seat?" And I go, "I don't think so."
Yeah.
Just real quick, I don't want to talk about the Knicks more, but
I always found it interesting that
it's ridiculous.
We always look at each other and go, "What are we saying the Pledge of Allegiance?"
And if you really want to be a stickler for history, then let's go back to the old Pledge of Allegiance before it was changed during McCarthyism in the 50s.
I'm fine with not saying it at all.
And me too. But my point being is that we sort of mold history into where we want it.
Yeah.
By the way, Julius Randle is the third highest scoring power forward in the NBA right now. The only two ahead of him are
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant's not a power forward.
Kyrie.
At least, yeah.
Kyrie.
No, power forward.
Oh, power forward. I'm sorry.
Yes. Giannis and Zion.
Oh, well, did you see last Friday night? Speaking of Zion, I just had that note there I wanted to say. Last Friday night, the start of the game, Zion went 12 for 12 to start the game on Friday night. So
yeah.
He's just
insane. And I just read something. He did something that nobody else has done. In their first 50 games as a rookie or something, he shot over 60%.
Yeah.
Something outrageous that nobody has ever done before.
It's insane.
So.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Kevin Durant's not on this list, and I'm wondering if he's just because he hasn't played enough. I don't know where Durant is. He's not showing up here.
While you're looking for that, I got a question for both of you. Giannis, you think he's? I mean, granted, it's just a streak right now, but the Bucks have lost four in a row. This is the first time since the 2 years ago, the Eastern Conference Finals, that they've lost four in a row. Whatchamacallit? Do you think Giannis is made a mistake re-signing with them, or you think they'll pull their shit together and still be at the top of the East?
I don't think they have to pull this shit together to compete in the East. I think they're
going to. With the Sixers and the Nets, they do.
I'm saying they'll still be up there. They're not. They didn't win it last year, so I mean, it's. No,
I don't think so. I think this is just a temporary little lull or whatever. They
again, you need depth to win in the NBA, and you're not
going to win it all on his own.
You're not going to win with the big man alone.
Yeah,
it's only one guy who ever did that.
Are you saying Drew Holiday was not the answer?
He's on our list coming up.
No, he wasn't. Which is also it takes. Look, the Nets have three of the top, 10, 12, 15, whatever you want to call them, players in the NBA on one team.
Going after that.
And they have a hard time beating some teams. So it's just, you just never know.
According to the All-Star voting, or according to the stats or whatever, they have three of the top five players in the league right now. So,
right.
But I don't think he did. I don't think that was a mistake. I think the Bucks will bounce back a little bit. But you're right. I don't think they'll be in the top three, depending on what the Sixers do and what the Nets wind up doing. But those are your top three teams in the East. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis isn't getting much help scoring wise.
He never has.
He's getting 16 a game from Holiday, 10.
Well, Middleton's
at 20, and Bobby Portis is 11 or 12.
Yeah, it's not about points. I mean,
but I mean, there's nobody on this. None of these guys are the second guy. I think that we talked about.
I think what's his name?
It's a nice Holiday.
Yeah,
it's a nice mix.
Yeah,
it's a nice mix. But I don't know. Chris Middleton, is he?
It's averaging 20. I mean,
all right. Look,
as a second guy with 20.3 points per game, take
Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, Kevin Durant and James Harden. Who would you take? You take Durant and Harden
right now. Durant and Harden. Yeah.
Of course. You put anybody other than Kawhi Leonard next to Antetokounmpo, and I take Durant and Harden. I take because Durant is Durant is the second and arguably at times the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
If I'm starting a team today, okay, I'm picking either Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard as my guy. And James Harden's a much more interesting pick, but look, Harden carried that team back from 24 points down the other day without Durant or Irving to win. It's on the road. It was against a mediocre Phoenix team, but still.
Let me ask you this then: you put Kawhi Leonard with Giannis, and
that's much more interesting. I'll tell you what: if you put Giannis on the Clippers, Giannis again has to learn to not have the ball in his hand all the time.
Right.
But imagine if Giannis didn't have that in common. Imagine if he could just go with the flow. Imagine him running a pick and roll instead of with Chris Middleton, with Kawhi or Paul George. Imagine when he gets triple teamed, looking out to the wings and seeing Kawhi, Lou Williams, or Paul George to pass the ball to. There will come a time, probably towards the end of this contract that he signed, where you will see it at the end of his career, you will see Giannis go to another team to try to win a championship because the Bucks aren't going to win one.
They were close. They were close a couple years ago.
Well, and that would be the mistake that he made in signing, is that they're just never going to give him the support that he really needs. Because you're right.
But is he kind of like
unless the league does something and sort of kind of breaks up these super teams. But I think you're right. We are past the point where one guy can get it done.
I will tell you that
he's got some help, but I don't know.
Here's the difference with the Bucks between this year and last year. They're giving up 113 points a game.
Yeah. I'll tell you that.
As opposed to what?
No, I think they were down around 104 last year.
Yeah,
The Bucks are scoring over 120 points a game. They're 1 point behind the Nets in points per game. They got them by 4 or 5 points almost in what their opponent. They're just, they're 16.
Well, you just wait till Andre Robertson gets on the team.
Right.
You're going to see some defense then.
Maybe. It'll help.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it was in when they were going on their run a couple of years ago. Milwaukee definitely loves their basketball. I was in Milwaukee during that run, and it was you couldn't turn any corner on any street anywhere in Milwaukee and not see something that said Bucks.
Well, Milwaukee loves anything that they have, and the Bucks are one of those. It's like the Jazz in Salt Lake. I mean, it's yes, of course they have the Brewers, and yes, they have the Packers, if you want to call that. But I mean,
well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, they're
actually closer. They're closer to Chicago. Milwaukee's closer to Chicago than it is to Green Bay.
Right,
not by much.
I'm saying it's a sports town, but they do. You go to Wisconsin, and there's a lot of Bears fans. There's a lot of Lions fans. There's
Right.
I mean, the one team that rules Wisconsin is the Packers.
It's the Packers, yeah.
Everything else is
there. I would venture to say that there's probably towns on the western border of Wisconsin, miles from Minneapolis, that are Packers fans and hate the Vikings. It's just a Wisconsin thing. It's crazy up there. They just can't. That border really borders. That's all. But in any event,
look, we're talking about the Knicks and what they need.
Yeah.
Let's transition into the team that no one's talking about, which has the best record in the NBA, and that's the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
So let's look at what they have been able to build on their team. They have a really good defensive-minded big man. They have a great all-stars, averaging 24 points a game in Donovan Mitchell. They have an older point guard who's still averaging almost 6 assists a game in Mike Conley. They've got Bogdanovich, who's, a good player, but again, averaging 15 points a game. They're playing team basketball, and they have a defensive-minded coach. Now, when you talk about Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, Bogdanovich, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, is that's not reading off the Clippers or the Nets lineup, but they're deep.
Right.
They have Derek Favors coming in at center as a backup. They have depth, and they're playing good defensive basketball. This is an example of how the Knicks need to build a team, because the Jazz are similar. They're not going to get a huge name to sign there. Nobody's going to go say, "Hey, I want to go team up with Donovan Mitchell and form the big three."
Right.
But they were able to keep Gobert. They have Mitchell under contract, and they've been able to get those veterans and other younger players to play as role players and to buy into this system. And I think that's how the Knicks need to look at this. Now, is Julius Randle a Donovan Mitchell? No. But I just don't. The Knicks didn't draft Donovan Mitchell.
Right. Now and speaking to your point, that's depth is very important. And if you can build that and keep whatever is working for you up top and have that depth and rotate them in and out and keep them fresh and everybody playing a team sport and the defense right there, then you got a competitive team that can win a playoff series and compete in the second one. Maybe they're not getting to the third in the championship, but that's what you're doing, and then you become attractive to a couple of big names that'll come in, and you can give them max contracts,
right.
And that puts you over the top. So,
yep,
sounds like a plan. Simple.
Simple, right? They're down by 15. They're coming back. There's 5 minutes left.
Oh,
96-81. 96-81. We'll keep an eye on
There you go.
To Orlando.
To Orlando, yeah, to Orlando.
Orlando's good.
10-18 Orlando.
Orlando's good.
Come on, they got Vucevic.
They got Petty Hardaway. They got Shaq.
They got Michael Carter Williams.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Terrence
How old
Ross.
is your webpage that you're looking at?
I mean, this is
They got Al Farouk Aminu logging his 11 minutes tonight. They got Mo Bamba.
See, this is what the
Mo
Knicks.
Bamba's plus 16 tonight. Come on.
Everybody gets excited about the Knicks, and then
That's
they
probably why
lose.
they're winning.
And then they lose to Orlando.
And then they
That's
lose to
probably
Orlando.
why they're winning, because Mo Bamba's plus 16.
Because Mo Bamba's plus 16. Yeah, exactly. That's it. But
better
Julius
retain
Randle, we talked 20 minutes ago. We said Julius Randle had 21 points. He has 23
He has
right now.
23
He's only,
now.
Yeah, but
he's only scored another basket.
He's shooting 10 of 18.
Or 2 free throws. I don't know.
He's
obviously,
shooting
but
10
only
of
2 points,
18.
but
The problem I see with Randall is in his game tonight is he's taken 7 3-pointers.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, still, he's 3 for 7.
okay. I mean, that's not bad.
40-something%, right?
Exactly. The Knicks need another. They need a shooter, and they need another scorer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's one thing about the Knicks, though. In general, they're not taking a ton of threes, and they're playing. They're getting in there, and they're playing. They're playing, and they're playing their positions too. They're not playing.
Yeah, everybody's a minus tonight for the Knicks.
I mean, and granted, I'm not really speaking about
Because they're
tonight.
down by 15. Yeah.
I'm not really speaking about tonight, obviously, because I haven't watched the game. I don't know how they played and what they were playing, but up till this point, it's been working. I don't know. Let's see. They got 4.5 minutes left to score 15 points.
Has it been working? I mean, look, the Knicks are the most improved team in the NBA. Obviously, when you go from complete horse shit to 500, then you're pretty good. I still think this team's, unless they make a roster, unless they get a decent top 40 player in a trade,
Right.
I still think they're going to wind up under 500, which is great. It's still, but where does this go? Right. I think if this improvement does not lead them to be able to get some more talent underneath them, it's not like this roster next year is all of a sudden going to be better. It's not like next year Kevin Knox is going to come in and average 30 points a game.
Right. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And if it does, hey, well, whatever. But it's not. So,
And if it does, then that's magic.
It's magic. Well, speaking of
but
magic,
look, the East is a weird. Like the Sixers are playing good ball. The Nets obviously are playing good ball. The Bucks are maybe a little lower than what they did. The Celtics are underperforming. The Raptors are underperforming. The Heat are definitely underperforming. This Atlanta Hawks team, which everybody's talking about, is underperforming. Right. I think the teams that are overperforming this year are the Knicks and the Cavs. And the Cavs have 10 wins.
Yeah, there's nobody in the East that's got 20 wins.
I mean, this wonderful
three teams out in the West that all have
right.
20 or more.
This wonderful Bradley, Beal led team who's leading the league in scoring has won 8 games. Yeah. Now they are beating my Nuggets right now, but
the 4, 5, and 6 teams in the West would be, 3, 4, and 5 in the East.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting.
It is very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Hey, should we get to our top 10 list?
Might as well.
We might as well, huh?
We have to at some point.
At some point. We're an hour into basketball.
We did really good. What did we do on football? 20, 25 minutes?
25 minutes, yeah. 25 minutes. So that was pretty good. I think we should do our top 10. It's a good way to round out what we've been talking about. We
got baseball and we got the Australian Open to get.
We got the Australian Open, and there's a backgammon tournament that we got to report on too at the end. So
big upsets in the backgammon world.
It's crazy, I tell you. In any event, our top 10 list tonight is top 10 centers in NBA history. That is our top 10. And Mr. Radio Pete is going to kick it off for us. Why don't you start us with number 10 there?
Number 10. One of two Knicks on the list, so of course I have to talk about them.
You got them both.
Daryl Dawkins was in the top 90, but he had his best years with the Sixers.
Which is also part of the reason why I was complaining before semi-facetiously. So it's Willis Reed, number 10. What can you say? Look, the Knicks have 2 championships, and he was part of both of them. He's in the Hall of Fame, of course, 18.7 points and basically 13 rebounds per game. He was an MVP in 1969. What did I just read there? All-Star Games most valuable player for what that is worth. 7 times an All-Star, 5 times All-NBA, 64-65 All-Rookie, 2-time Finals MVP, Rookie of the Year, 2 NBA championships, All Defensive in 69-70, 69-70 MVP as well. And of course that amazing game where his leg was broken or it was amputated actually, and he came in and played anyway. And
first robot to ever play.
Came in and I think he hit a shot and played for about 91 seconds. But he was the hero of the game as the Knicks came back and beat somebody. I don't really remember it.
Well, I think the hero of that game was none other than Mr. Walt Frazier, who probably had maybe the best Game 7 in the history of the NBA. But we all remember Willis Reed.
Yeah, and look, he was legitimately a great player, and he's number 10 on our list.
There you go. Yeah. Number 10, Willis Reed. All right, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz, why don't you bring us to number 9?
Number 9 was the man initially nicknamed Mr. Basketball, the man who changed the game forever, maybe the OG big man, George Mikan, the bespectacled wonder. Mikan was 6'10", 245 at a time when I think the next tallest player was probably 5'10". But he changed the game.
And it was hard to play with that guy on his shoulders too, but he did.
It was. That's why he led the league in block shots. Yeah.
That gives him the height.
Yeah, look, nobody has really forced the game into the modern era than George Mikan. These are the rules that were added because of George Mikan and so dominant. Goaltending, the widening of the foul line, and the shot clock were all created because of George Mikan's dominance in the NBA. He's one of the 50th greatest players of all time. He played for the Chicago American Gears and, of course, the Minneapolis Lakers. Look, he was a 5-time BAA and NBA champion, a 2-time NBL champion. He played so long ago that there were different leagues before the NBA existed, but he was one of the most dominant and really the first dominant big man in the game. He averaged over 23 points and 13 rebounds in his career at a time when they were not scoring 140 points a game. And in the playoffs, he averaged 24 points and 14 rebounds. So he did not diminish in the postseason. You look at some of these lists of big men. Some people kind of forget about him because look at him. It looks like he played, in an era when there were still peach baskets up on a wooden post. Right. But he was indeed one of the best ever, and probably one of the most influential players in basketball history, period. And so I think he's incredibly deserving to be on this list, especially where he's at.
I agree. There you go.
Yeah, everybody agrees.
Absolutely.
There's no question George Mikan was one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely. Agreements all around. There you go. Number 9, George Mikan. I will take number 8. Number 8 is none other than the Admiral. Right there, Mr. David Robinson. Here's his picture right there. He was David Maurice Robinson. He was first overall pick in '87 by the Spurs. He played.
Didn't play for 2 years after that because he still had to fulfill his Navy
military thing. Yeah, absolutely. He started playing career in '89. He was drafted in '87. But yeah, he plays his entire career with the Spurs. Two-time NBA champion in '99 and '03. I'm he's deserving of winning them. I'm just a little upset that he won in '99, but what Knicks fan isn't?
That Knicks team had no chance.
They not one bit.
I'm
shocked.
Maybe the weirdest. Yeah, if Ewing was healthy, maybe they had a chance. But come on.
But I mean, Spree, come on, Spree. He had it under control, though, didn't he?
Well, they were interesting. That's for sure.
It was an interesting team, that's for sure. But anyways, two-time NBA champion, NBA Most Valuable Player in '95, 10-time All-Star, 4-time first team, and 2-time second team, and 4-time third team. Defensive Player of the Year in '92. He was a 4-time NBA All-Defensive first team, 4-time NBA All-Defensive second team. You see where this is going. It's just the accolades go on and on and on. But I mean, he ran the floor as a center like he was a small forward. It was just the way he was able to move was insane. And he kept he outrated. Like kept him in check or whatever. When Akeem Olajuwon during that whole era that they were playing back and forth. The whole Texas thing. But Hakeem was a great player, but Robinson, held him in check. I think he was
a lot of good centers in the league at that time.
There was a ton of good centers in the league at that point. It's ridiculous, and a lot of them are on this list. So,
yep.
But in any event, I think one's coming up next. But yeah, there you go. The Admiral, David Robinson at number 8.
Classy too.
Absolutely. Oh, totally classy.
Just part of that whole Spurs vibe.
Yeah.
Classy guys.
Totally. Absolutely. Totally agree. Number 8, David Robinson. RadioPete, bring us to number 7.
Number 7, the other Nick on this list. Probably one of the more underrated players, maybe of all time, certainly of his era. And that is, of course, Patrick Ewing. No championships. And I feel a little bit bad because Ewing seemed like a class act, too. And there was a lot of coming out of college. There was a lot of he was a quiet guy, and people didn't know a whole lot about him. And he kind of got some bad press because of that, because the media wanted to know more about him and thought that because he didn't speak, he probably wasn't very bright. And he's kind of look. I was a Syracuse fan back in the early and mid '80s, in the heyday of the Big East, and I was in college up in Ithaca, and my roommate was from Bayside, and he was a St. John's fan, and there was another guy who lived next door. He was from up around Syracuse. So he was a Syracuse fan. We had another friend, part of our little clique, who was from Virginia, and he was a Georgetown fan. So, those rivalries run deep. But Ewing, 11 times an All-Star, Rookie of the Year, 84, 85, as well as, of course, on the All-Rookie team, 7 times All-NBA, 3 times All-Defensive. Say what you want about his style. The ball went in and didn't come out, but he's one of the most.
Who is it supposed to come out to?
Well, you're right. That's a good point. I mean, there weren't that many options.
Look,
he's one of the best.
Charlie Ward's open.
I think he's one of the best shooting big men ever.
That's right.
And listen, I root for him. Now, and probably, I don't want to say biased, but I probably, after his college days, I didn't watch certainly as many Knicks games as you guys did. So I didn't actually see him play that much. So I don't think I have the same appreciation for him that guys who, like you, who watched him all the time.
Sure.
But I mean, he was a great player. And like I said, I root for him now. I hope he's going to be successful in whatever else. I think he still wants to coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
he is coaching.
Yeah, in the pros though. Well, I don't know if that's his.
I think he's really happy. I think he wanted that. I think he's really.
But he's doing a good job in college, and I am
where his mentor was. I mean, he's happy.
I hated him when I was in college, and he was too, for that matter. But he's a good guy and a great player as well. So
sure.
Patrick Ewing
carried a ton of those Knicks teams. It's just
he literally was the show for
I mean,
a number of years.
Other than Charles Oakley, he had no real consistent second guy. And look, Oakley was a big part of Ewing's success because he did sort of spell Ewing from having to cover a lot of the other team centers for durations of the game and sometimes the whole game. And together they were probably the best rebounding power forward and center combination. But Ewing played in an era where maybe the best big men of all time. It was an era where every team didn't have a great big man, but every night he was going up against somebody dominant. He didn't have a game where there was no center on the other team. Unfortunately, his second trip to the finals, he got hurt, and the Knicks were stuck with Chris Dudley. But there's only one other player on this list that I can honestly say carried a team with as little talent to a championship. Yeah, and as a Knicks fan, there's nothing I would want more than to see this era of Knicks team win a championship because they were everything that the Bulls weren't. They were not glamorous. They were not pretty. They were blue collar New York to a T. And I've never seen the Garden has not been the same since. No. You could argue that, yes, in the early 70s, the Garden was electric with a team that had 5 of the top 50 basketball players of all time on it. This Knicks team was as blue collar and as gritty as you could. And
they had personality.
They had personality, and there was no doubt Patrick Ewing was the leader of that team, and he was alone a lot of the time. The Knicks were never able to get him the pieces to win the championship. And look, he sits on a list with a lot of other players who could not win one during the Jordan years. You got Karl Malone, you have Charles Barkley, the list goes on and on. Reggie Miller, he's not alone. No. If Patrick Ewing came out today and was playing in the NBA, we wouldn't be talking about the 76ers at the top of the East right now.
No, we wouldn't be. Yeah, well, there you go. Number 7, Mr. Patrick Ewing. Harry, bring us to number 6.
Number 6 is none other than the chairman of the boards, Mr. Moses Malone. I think Moses Malone played for 125 teams. I'm not going to list
126.
126. Look, he was one of the most dominant players in the history of the NBA. And if you count his time in the ABA and the NBA combined, he ranks 9th all-time in career points, almost 30,000, and 3rd in total rebounds with 17,834. He was probably the best offensive rebounder in the game. He retired as the all-time leader in that, and finally won a championship. And look, he's another guy who came in and became a centerpiece, winning the MVP. He won the MVP 3 times in his career, which not very many people can say that. And he brought Dr. J his only championship. And he was that good. He unfortunately, I think, died too young. Had some health issues towards the end of his life there, but he was dominant. And I only remember him towards the end of his career. This was the sort of, he just seemed like he was the old man out there schooling everybody.
Sure.
And just incredible. And he's 6'10". He was a big dude, and people would just fly around. He was. I've never seen anybody box out better than Moses Malone. And if you wanted to learn how to box out, you watched Moses Malone.
Just watch Malone. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, he was a monster.
I think he gets short shrift in a lot of discussions about the best players of all time. And yeah, he only had the one championship, but he was incredible.
Right. And he was talk about one player not being able to do it. He was the key piece because Dr. J struggled and came up short, just barely short again and again. And then Malone came along and they win one.
Well, in 1983, he was the MVP, the league MVP, and the finals MVP. And how old was he? He was born in 55. So do the math. He was not a young man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Third now.
He's 28.
28, yeah.
So I mean, he just seemed more seasoned and grizzled. I don't know. Maybe it was just because I was a young kid and he seemed older, but he just he was dominant, and he again played against a lot of great centers in his career, and he is also always brought up along with Willis Reed and Wes Unseld by other players, and some, including some players on this list, as far as who was your hardest opponent, who gave you the most trouble.
Yeah, sure.
Moses Malone. I bet his name comes up a lot. He was kind of a combination of Willis Reed and Hakeem Olajuwon. He wasn't quite as nimble, but he was very, very, very skilled in the post. He could score and had moves, and yet he had power as well. He's great. Moses Malone.
Moses Malone, number 6. I will take number 5, and that would be the Dream, Mr. Hakeem Abdul Olajuwon. There he is right there. He was drafted, again, first overall pick in 84 by the Rockets, played all but the last year of his career with the Rockets. Went to Toronto for the last year. But, he's a two-time NBA champion, 94-95. Again, with the last guy that I did, beating the Knicks in the first time in 94. Ewing's first 2 chances to win a championship. And that's what Harry was referring to before. I mean, that 94 championship, it was the Olajuwon Ewing show. They both carried that, the first and second. What did we say before? The first. How'd you say it before, Harry?
About what? He carried a bunch of nobodies to the championship?
The first level.
He's the first. I would say that Hakeem Olajuwon is the first and maybe the only big man to carry a team by himself to an NBA championship.
2 in a row, yeah. And
well, he had Drexler the second time.
He had Drexler.
Granted, Drexler was a little older, but you look at that.
Helped more than he had the year before. So.
You look at that 94 team. It was two teams that were built around really great defense and 2 of the best centers ever going at each other. Yeah. And Hakeem was just a little better.
Yeah, and he was, and he won both of those championships. He won, was the Finals MVP both years. NBA Most Valuable Player in '94 too. 12-time All-Star, 6-time All NBA first team, 3-time second team. 3-time third team, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in 93 and 94. And 5-time All Defensive First Team, 4-time All Defensive Second Team. Again, accolades just go on and on and on. It's insane. But he, his footwork and agility was insane. And definitely, who knows what would have happened if Jordan didn't retire for those 2 years.
They would have lost.
To be quite honest with you, I think
Houston, that is.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Look, the one thing you could say about Hakeem, okay, is that he beat Ewing and he beat Shaq.
He beat Shaq, yeah, back
to back.
He wouldn't have beaten Jordan.
I would have been rooting for him.
I certainly was.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was.
That's one thing I shared with Knick fans is hatred of.
I think that Houston team, which beat a pretty good Orlando team in the finals, I think that Houston team with Drexler and Hakeem and a couple of because I think they also had Robert Horry on that team, if I'm not mistaken.
Robert Horry was on the team. Yeah.
I think that they would have given the Bulls the best run for their money. I'm not. No, you can't ever say anybody's going to definitely beat Jordan.
They would have gone 6 or 7.
But I think they would have had the best chance out of any of these teams.
You're probably right. Well, there you go. Number 5, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. Radio Pete, bring us to number 4. I think we just mentioned his name a couple seconds ago.
Yeah, he was just in the picture. That is one Shaquille Rashawn O'Neal. Also known as, that's my favorite nickname, the Big Aristotle.
The Big Diesel.
The Big Diesel. Shaq Superman. Yeah. Shaq Daddy. Shaq Fu.
Yeah, he just made up 4 more nicknames for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was just eating a skunk in a TV commercial.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the big Aristotle.
Past actin' to actin'.
What can you say about Shaquille O'Neal? Well, what can you not say about him? 15 times an All-Star. Well, yeah, that's really 2-time scoring champ, 4 NBA championships, 14 times an All-NBA, 3 times All-Defensive, Rookie of the Year, 92, 93, 3 times an MVP in the finals, 99 to 2000 MVP, and of course, Rookie of the Year, 92, 93, 1,207 games, 23.7 points per game, only 10.9 rebounds per game, which is odd, but 2.5 assists, which is pretty good for a big man. 58% from the field, 4.5% from three-point range. And
never won a championship without Kobe Bryant or Dwayne Wade.
And there's a lot of people who didn't win championships without a second. 52.7% from the free throw line. Look, Shaq was a monster. He just, he didn't have as much success as he should have, I guess you could say.
He had a ton of
it. 8th in scoring when he was all done and 15th in rebounding at the end of a 20-year career. And he talked about playing for a lot of teams. He played for like 9.
Yeah, but I mean, we really remember him as
I remember him as a Laker
and early on Orlando.
8 years with the Lakers, 4 with Orlando, 4 with Miami, a couple with Phoenix, and then 1 each with Cleveland and Boston. He was unstoppable at times. And of course,
he came into the league at the right time too, because that era of 80s and early 90s centers, they were all retiring. He played against some of them when he was young. In fact, he lost to Hakeem in the finals.
Yeah.
But then when Hakeem and Ewing and Mourning and Rick Schmitz and all of these other guys were leaving, there really wasn't a lot of big men. Now, that doesn't take anything away from what he accomplished. I think Shaq falls into the same category as Wilt Chamberlain in that I think he played a little bit more timid than he probably naturally would have because he was just such a physical presence. There's never, ever been a physical presence like Shaquille O'Neal on the basketball court. He was just enormous. Yeah, and there was nobody, if he wanted to, he could just bully over anybody.
Yeah, he was literally unstoppable at times. And he fulfilled he was a big deal at LSU, and he kind of fulfilled that potential. He did not disappoint. Not disappoint. And of course, the personality and all that goes along with it.
Well, you can't not love Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, you might have hated him if you were.
I mean, he's probably the most likable basketball player of all time.
Yeah, but he did make not much didn't make too many good movies, but we'll forgive him for that because he did a lot of other good things.
Yeah, but nobody else did on this list either.
This is true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So there you go.
Hey, Pat Ewing was in Space Jam. Yeah, so.
That's right. Wasn't Moses Malone in Car Wash? No, I don't know.
So there you go. Number 4, the Shaq.
And Shaq was born in Jersey too. So.
Yeah, he's Newark, right?
Newark. Yeah, he was born in Newark. Yeah.
Him and Biz Markie.
There you go. All right, number 4, Shaquille O'Neal. Harry, bring us number 3.
Number 3 is none other than Mr. Bill Russell. Look, he had this slight little
he didn't have that
career.
Good, I mean,
no,
he's small.
He played 13 years in the league and won 11 NBA championships. And oh, by the way, 3 of them he won as a player coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Look,
Bill Russell. Was it 8 in a row or 8 in a row, right?
Right. 8 in a row. Bill Russell was the guy who kept Wilt Chamberlain from winning championships. And you could say what you want. I really think that the greatest head-to-head rivalry in the history of the NBA was Bill Russell versus Wilt Chamberlain. And they played each other a lot. And Bill Russell had a lot of talent around him. He was the leader of that team. But he won 11 NBA championships. He was a 5-time most valuable player. He was a 12-time NBA All-Star. Again, 13 seasons. Okay. And He's on the NBA 25th anniversary, 35th anniversary, 50th anniversary. He'll be on the 75th anniversary. He'll be on the 100th anniversary. He was that good of a player. He was an all-around player. He never averaged more than 19 points a game or 19 points a game in a year. And his career scoring is nowhere near some of the other players on this list. But he averaged 15.1 points a game and 22.5 rebounds a game in the regular season. And in the playoffs, he averaged 16.2 points a game and 24.9 rebounds per game. He is one of only 2 players in the history of the NBA to ever have 50 rebounds in a game.
Sure.
Yeah, you could say he didn't. There was no other centers. He played against Wilt Chamberlain. Okay.
Yeah. He was definitely. You could argue he was the best rebounder who ever played the game.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable argument.
Yeah, and he was just one of those guys. You put him on the list of people like Yogi Berra and Michael Jordan and obviously now Tom Brady. He just was a winner. And look, what he did off the court, and there's another person that's on this list who I think is equally as important in this. Bill Russell was never afraid to speak up, and he did it in a way that balanced a very fine line for a man speaking out on social issues in his position during this time frame. And he is still one of the smartest, most jovial, funniest ambassadors to the game that you'll ever meet. And he was unbelievable. And I don't think we can really put into perspective what that is like to have won 11 championships in 13 seasons. I mean, I think the only other person who can sit next to him is Yogi Berra. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And yes, he did not, but he was a team player. He understood what it took to win. And yes, he had a lot of talent around him. And yes, they were a dynasty, and the league was not what it was today. But when I think of NBA centers and big men in this game, if Bill Russell's not one of the top 3 or 4 people that roll off the tongue, then you don't know this game.
That's for sure.
Yeah, he's kind of a system center.
He's a system center, without a doubt. Yeah, that's just pretty good system.
Pretty damn good system. He was in the right place, that's for sure.
It was a pretty damn good system, yeah. So.
Listen, Bill, just go out, put a few buckets in, get some rebounds. We'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just drag Chamberlain up and down the court for 48 minutes and see, keep us in the game.
That's one of those things you go, but you look at his record against Wilt and you go, how is that possible?
Yeah,
he could have that kind of success,
I mean, Wilt's numbers were obviously better, but Russell was just a good defensive player, and he knew, and he also understood the game.
Absolutely,
he understood what it took. He knew how to make every person on that court better. And everybody that he's ever played with will tell you that.
Sure, proof positive. He was the coach for the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, and won 3 championships as a player and a coach. Yep. So, just insane.
Yeah. And I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you would ever have seen Shaq become a player coach with the Boston Celtics at the age of 40 years old. Yeah. But yeah, unbelievable, Bill Russell.
There you go. Bill Russell.
And by the way, he's, I think, the only person on this list. Oh, no, probably one of 2 people on this list to have ever been awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, Bill Russell. I will take number 2. Number 2 is Wilt the Stilt. Wilton Norman Chamberlain. He was drafted in the territorial draft in 59, selected by the Philadelphia Warriors. That became the San Francisco Warriors, and obviously ultimately the Golden State Warriors. But his first year he played with the Harlem Globetrotters. So that was a little interesting. But his 2-time NBA champion in '67 and '72. A couple of years that.
He broke the streak with the Celtics.
He broke the streak with the Celtics, yeah. Celtics would have had...
he was the Hakeem Olajuwon of his era.
There you go. Celtics would have had 10 in a row if it wasn't for the '67 championship that that Wilt won. NBA Finals MVP in 72, four-time NBA MVP, four-time NBA Most Valuable Player, 13-time All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP in 1960, seven-time All-NBA First Team, three-time Second Team, two-time All-Defensive First Team, Rookie of the Year in 1960, seven-time NBA scoring champion, 7 years in a row, 60 through 66. 11-time NBA rebounding champion, almost every year in the 60s and a few in the 70s as well. Assist leader in 68. A member of the 35th anniversary team, the 50th anniversary team, and his number 13 was retired by the Golden State Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Harlem Globetrotters. He has 31,419 points in his career and 23,924 rebounds, and approaching 5,000 assists. It's his stats are ridiculous. 100 points in a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Who scores
unbelievable.
100 points in a game? You know, I mean, anybody shooting, and any of these kids shooting threes and making them, they're still not shooting 100 points in a game. 59 points and a half. He had 36 field goals.
And that's with guys trying to stop him.
Yeah. He wasn't just out there throwing the ball.
They criticized him as not passing the ball, and the next year he went out and led the league in assists.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, there was. If you remember, David Robinson one year won the scoring title, and he put up like 73 points in his last game.
Yeah,
but there were guys that were kind of like, "Ole," when the game was out of reach, and they were like, "Yeah, go ahead, David." I think
he averaged more than 50 points a game one year.
Yeah.
Many years.
Wilt was
45. He had 45 games with 50 points or more in 1962.
Yeah, but Wilt was putting it in. My point is, he was putting in his 100 when guys were legitimately trying to stop him every time.
Right.
Not kind of letting him,
they were. He didn't put up 40, and then they said, go ahead, knock yourself out. The rest of the game.
They were on him the whole game.
All 100 points, they were on him. Unbelievable. I mean, I could sit here for about half an hour and read you all of his stats, but you get the idea. Just an insane,
Well, and don't forget the 20,000.
Yeah, well, I mean that's
maybe the most impressive stat at all.
The most impressive stat at all.
Self-reported, admittedly, but still, I have no reason.
And that was in one weekend.
I thought his total rebounds was 23,000.
For those of you that know what we're talking about, you're getting a laugh. That's all. So anyway, but in any event, yeah, there you go. Wilt the Stilt, just an incredible. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Yeah, just if it wasn't for our number one, he would be number one. That's really what it boils down to. So number two,
a lot of great big men on this list. I mean, a lot of great big men. There's not so many anymore, but maybe there's a return.
Yeah, it could be coming. It could be coming soon. We will see. But there you go for tonight. Number two, Wilt the Stilt, Wilt Chamberlain. There you go. Peter, bring us to number one.
Number one. Who else could it be except for Kareem and I'll say his middle name, Abdul-Jabbar. Well, actually, I don't know if that was his middle name. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or you might know him as Lou Alcindor, if you are 80 years old.
Lou Alcindor Jr.
So. What can you say about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
There he is.
There he is. Yeah. Look, 19 times an All-Star. That's, I think, more than anybody.
How many MVPs?
6 MVPs.
There you go. How many rings on those fingers?
6 championships.
There you go.
2 times a Finals MVP. 11 times All-Defensive Team. 15 times All-NBA. 4 times led the league in blocks. 2 times a scoring champ. And that was, I think, before he got to the Lakers, when he was still with the Bucks.
And I think he also won a couple championships in college.
Yep.
Yeah. And just 1,560 games, 24.6 points per game, is 55% from the field, 11 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game and 2.5 blocks. I don't know. He's certainly in the conversation as the greatest player of all time.
I agree. And for me, when I say that, people, the younger people especially don't understand why I say that he does not get the deserved, at least to be in the argument with Jordan as the best player of all time. Granted, maybe there's something that isolates Jordan from that, but Kareem was amazing. He was absolutely amazing, and he was one of a kind.
And right, and we should also mention he was 7 feet 2 inches tall.
Yeah.
But he was not a bruiser to the basket type of guy.
No.
He had much more finesse, much more touch. He invented
a shot that Wilt Chamberlain couldn't block.
Yep.
Supposedly, George Mikan
had a slightly didn't have the sky hook. Mikan
similar
could shoot the hook shot. He shot it with both hands.
It was kind of the predecessor to the sky hook. But you're right. He created a shot. He said there's got to be a way to figure out how to put this up, and he put it up, and he invented the sky hook as it existed at the time, and
maybe one of the best outlet passers too. In those Showtime Laker days, it was like he was like Randy Johnson firing a fastball down the court,
and he could run the floor. He could do absolutely everything.
I think his longevity. A lot of times, players play for a long time, and their numbers go down.
Absolutely. I mean, his two finals
Kareem's longevity has to be part of the equation.
Absolutely. His 2 finals MVPs were 14 years apart.
As a big man, as a center.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you
71-85.
If you look at the last 3 years of his career, 17.5, 14.5, and 10 points in 88, 89. Other than that, as far as his average, over 20 every single year.
I mean, he basically played in 3 decades of basketball.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. If you play long enough, you will put up numbers, right?
You'll put up numbers, but your averages will eventually go down.
Right.
You'll have those years where you're more of a role
But he was remarkably consistent at a high level,
Yeah. I think when he was in this shot, when he was dishing to Peter Graves, I think was probably one of his best.
Well, the best thing about that is when he stands up and he has his shorts, his basketball shorts, and knee pads on.
And then they when they carry him out through the aisle,
and
he had the goggles on.
Goggles were on too. That's right. Folks, you listen to the audio podcast. We have a picture up of his airplane.
And by the way, he's written a number of books. He's an incredible writer. He took a lot of shit for being somebody who spoke his mind and he is an intellectual, without a doubt. Probably the smartest basketball player to ever play the game. Sure. He is an incredible writer. I've read a number of his books. He's really good. He has a really interesting story to tell. His biography is really good, but he's an interesting cat. And I think he's not perfect. Everybody's had but I think what's amazing about Kareem is that he's grown over the years. And I think much like Bill Russell, he's done a lot for the game outside of the court and after his career was over. And I think he's an incredible human being. You don't when he changed his name, there were people that he was getting death threats.
Oh yeah. People absolutely hated him.
I mean, unbelievable to think back. It's not that long ago, but it's sad. But yet he was tough. He was a stoic guy. Again, we talk about Patrick Ewing not giving much to the press or not being much of a jovial. He was the opposite of Shaq. He was the opposite of Bill Russell.
Yep.
He wasn't even as jovial as Wilt. I mean, he was all business.
Yeah. And probably the best actor on this list.
Absolutely.
I would say so.
And he was not particularly good, but he was better than anybody else.
He was more diverse. He could do kung fu movies.
Well, Ewing did have one line in Space Jam, so and he nailed it. Yeah. He nailed it.
He did.
But yeah, he could do. Look, he did comedy, which is harder than drama. Everyone says, right. And he could be an action star.
There you go.
Well, Wilt was an action star too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean,
in more ways than one.
Didn't he kick Chuck Norris's ass in that movie?
Yeah,
he
did.
I think, right? And then he lost. Then he got beat up by Bruce Lee. So
I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
something like that.
He was great on
Maybe they were
Golden
different
Pond.
movies. I don't know.
on Golden Pond.
Was it Will Chamberlain in On Golden Pond?
Will Chamberlain was on Golden Pond. Yeah, Henry Fonda and Will Chamberlain were.
He
sitting on the
played
porch.
the mailman who came over in the mailboat, right?
Norman, yeah.
Yeah, that and Cider House Rules maybe his two best dramatic
right.
roles.
Yeah, he was good. He was great on the Gilmore Girls.
Right.
One Day at a Time, wasn't he on that?
It was on One Day at a Time. Yeah, he was hanging out with Schneider. Oh, there you go. References.
Number one, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Number one, Mr. Lou Alcindor Jr., Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There you go. And that's our top 10 list for today. And that brings us to our follow-up segment of what?
By the way, 107-89, the final of the Knicks game.
107-89. So the Knicks came back and scored 107?
No.
Yeah. Well, they just took some of Orlando's points.
They see 500 and they go, no, we don't want to get
that's not for us. We want to we'll creep up again.
Too soon. Too soon.
One step forward, one step back. That's all.
They're allergic to 500.
Exactly. But let's shift this over to Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry, who's our Old Balls winner for this week?
This week's recipient of Old Balls, in keeping with our top 10 theme, is none other than Mr. Dan Issel. That's right, Dan Issel. We probably know him more for his playing days with the Denver Nuggets. Played for the Kentucky Colonels for 5 years before the Denver Nuggets. Played most of his time in the ABA, but did play in the NBA as well. And is the all-time leading scorer at the University of Kentucky. When he retired, only Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Julius Erving had more career points. I think Dan Issel is the one guy that no one knows about. He is 11th all-time on the scoring list when you combine the ABA and the NBA all-time players. And, he scored over 27,500 points in his career. He averaged, I believe, 20 and 10 in his career. Obviously never won a championship. The Nuggets were one of those teams that were kind of changing the game in the sort of high octane score first, up tempo, fast break kind of basketball that was coming out of the ABA in those days. But make no doubt about it, Dan Issel was a hard nosed basketball player and one of the toughest basketball players ever. And maybe the second greatest Denver Nugget of all time. He was fantastic. And it's interesting to see him that he just scored that many points in his career. It's just, I think he goes unnoticed, and he fits right into the theme of this segment. His numbers retired by the Denver Nuggets. He's in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame and is obviously in the NBA Hall of Fame. Dan Issel, I think one of the most unsung players in the history of the NBA. And by the way, he averaged over 22 points and 10 rebounds in the playoffs.
And he coached when he was done too, right?
He coached. He was another guy who was a coach. He's kind of a legend. I think his legend is fading a little bit just because of time here with the Nuggets. But he was on a team of, he sort of straddled the line when a lot of different guys came in. He was kind of the elder statesman by the time that the Alex Englishes and came into the league. But he was a solid basketball player, and he was a kind of an undersized center to some degree. He's like 6'9", but he's definitely a center, and one of the best to ever play the game, I think. If we had a top 20, he'd definitely be on my list.
Yeah, he would be. Well, there you go. This week's Old Balls. Old Balls. Dan Issel. There you go. All right. Well, that wraps up basketball for this evening. Should we jump into some hot stove baseball? What do you think?
Sure.
What do we know? Is there anything going on?
There's a few things. I mean, I want to bring something up. I want your opinion on it. I mean, there's some other stuff to talk about, but I want to bring up this first. I don't know how much you hear about it, Harry, out in Denver, and what you've seen.
Baseball,
whatever,
we're in a mourning period out here when it comes to baseball.
But specifically speaking of the Mets, I just want to bring up there's been a huge part of the fan base that is ripping Steve Cohen. I mean, the man's owned the team for 3 months.
Right.
And, I know he's the savior and everything else, and we all believe it, and it's going to happen. But when he did his introductory press conference, he said his desire is to bring a championship to the Mets within the next 3 to 5 years. Anything longer than that would be a disappointment. And he said he wants to build from within and have a consistently competing multiple championship team going forward. But the first championship that you want to call it a promise. Obviously, he didn't, guarantee a championship, but he says he wants to see one in the next 3 to 5 years. Anything longer would be a disappointment. His words in the opening press conference. There's a large number of the fan base that's just ripping him for not signing Bauer, not offering more money and getting Bauer.
He tried.
Not offering more money and getting Springer, not even making a move to go after Real Muto, and basically looking at this offseason as a disappointment. Now, I'll give you my take first, and then I want both of yours. First of all, I think that's complete horseshit, okay? Because this offseason and the signings that the Mets did are probably one of the best off seasons as far as signings go in Mets history, number one. Did we get any of the top 3 names on the free agents list? No. But Bauer didn't want to come here. I think the Springer, we've talked about this before. Bauer did not want to come here. He wasn't coming here. He was going to Dodgers. He was using us for the
Springer wanted to stay in the American League.
Springer wanted to stay in the American League, and I think the Jared Porter thing had a little to do with it because of the timing and everything else. And Real Muto, you know what? I mean, for what they got coming down the pipe, McCann, and I said it from November, McCann was a better bet. So whatever. I mean, I don't think they're listening to me or anything that I wrote and everything else, but the bottom line is I think they made the right move there. But between Lindor and Trevor May and all the other signings that
Lindor alone on any other – that would be big if the Yankees were able to get him.
Sure.
I mean, that's huge. That's like the equivalent of getting A-Rod in his prime.
Right. Absolutely.
Bauer wasn't coming to the Mets.
Right. Bauer wasn't coming to the Mets. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that a lot of these Met fans and a lot of these groups that I'm in and I see, and you hear it on the radio and everybody bitching in when they call and everything else. I just think it's absolute complete horseshit that they're taking that. Would they think he was going to wave a magic wand, dump $400 million and buy a championship this year, the first that he owns the team?
You have to remember too, this was a Mets team that had a bunch of people in their ownership rank who were all begging somebody to come in and bail them out because they were losing money writing checks out of their own pocket. I mean,
sure.
you listen to Bill Maher talk about this on his show. This guy, it's not an easy thing in today's age to buy a pro sports team and then commit yourself to paying these guys what they're deserving to be paid.
Right.
And I think this might be the best Mets lineup going into the season. Talking pitching, potential pitching with people coming back from injuries, and with recent acquisitions that just their actual lineup. This has to be the best Mets team in the last 30 years.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And for that alone, the way I always say this is who are the teams that seem to always have good off seasons? You have the Red Sox, the Dodgers, but the team that always leads that list is the Yankees.
Sure.
The Mets had a better off season than the Yankees by far.
They definitely did. I mean, you guys did sign. Yeah, you guys. The Yankees did sign Justin Wilson the other day. So.
Yeah,
but who I think the Mets actually should have re-signed, but the Yankees.
Justin Wilson's not Francisco Lindor.
But Justin Wilson's not Francisco Lindor. No, not at all. And I mean, unless Francisco Lindor is going to play shortstop coming out of the bullpen. But the bottom line is that they had a great offseason, probably one of the best, definitely one of the best, if not the best in franchise history. And there's people out there that are just, complaining about it. And I think it's unjust and ridiculous. So
just to make this fun, I'll take the flip side of the coin.
Go for it.
Although I agree with you, John, although not quite as vehemently. I think this was an excellent offseason for the Mets. But I'll take the flip side of the coin just to make it fun. But first, I want to point out, I'm thrilled that the logo looks like it's sitting right on the top shelf of my little clothes rack thing there. Yeah, I love how that works.
Well, you know who helped me out with that, right?
No.
Maria Kondo?
Maria Kondo, right there.
Oh, yeah. She's this room's going to look very different in 6 or 8 months.
That logo is the logo where it's sitting is bringing me joy.
Does it spark joy?
Yeah. So here's what I'll say about the Mets offseason. Lindor, that was great. Best shortstop in the game, maybe. You bring him in, exactly. But there's not enough of that. McCann's a nice player, but he's not real Muto. George Springer, you could say, he never wanted to come here, and you could say Bauer was just using the Mets. If you really wanted to get him here, you'd get him here because, as Don Ohlmeyer said, the answer to all the questions is money. The Mets didn't do a good enough job. You lost out on the top 3 free agents, and you haven't signed Lindor yet. So he may or may not stick around for next season. Who else did you get in? Wait a minute. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Kevin Pillar, yeah, that's a wonderful addition. May, the pitcher, yeah, okay. You still haven't addressed your pitching needs, really. You brought in a nice catcher, a second-tier guy. Fine, that's fine. But this isn't a great offseason. You missed out on the big 3, and you try to put together a winner. You got to do better. You got to get those guys here. Yeah, successful? Sure. Great? No. More of a failure than a success? Yeah, I think you can make that argument. And that's the devil's advocate side.
I understand what you're saying. I do, believe me. I think that a lot of things hinged on Bauer. I think that the bottom line was that they were figuring that they want to re-sign Lindor. They have to re-sign Conforto. That there's money that's going to go there. They're going to be over the luxury tax threshold next year. It's going to happen if they sign these guys. If they re-sign these guys, and they wanted Bauer, I think, more than Springer is really what it boiled down to. And I think they didn't go that extra mile to get Springer because they thought they were going to be able to land Bauer. And
that was obviously a miscalculation.
Obviously,
call that a failure.
Sure. Yeah. And if you flip it, and Bauer was off the market first, and they were still dealing with Springer, I think they get Springer. I think he's here. And granted, you know what? I think if Bauer had tipped his hand a little bit more, where they actually were able to read him and say, you know what, he wants to go to Dodgers. It's really not going to. We'll try, but it's really not going to.
Well, wasn't he the guy that was selling Mets hats or something?
Selling Mets hats. He was trolling Mets and he's been doing it all along.
They didn't make it happen, you know. Yeah. And as far as the Jared Porter thing goes, you know, that was an error in judgment too. They're off to at the very most an auspicious start.
Well, you know what I mean.
They'll have to do better.
I'm sure I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we're not seeing, and some bills, if you will, and some other crap that Wilpon leftovers that they need to, clean up, so to speak. Look,
McCann will probably be a good player. That's fine. If Lindor walks,
McCann is an amazing improvement at catcher. So
yeah, but
he's not real Muto, but he's still an amazing improvement.
If Lindor walks, then this offseason is a disaster.
Right. Well, that's the benchmark right there. If they don't re-sign Lindor and they can't re-sign Conforto, even though he had nothing to do with this offseason, this offseason was a complete failure.
Yeah. Well, even if they might sign Conforto, but my point is, you're one step away from this offseason being a complete disaster. I can't call that a huge success.
I would say there's only 2 teams that had a better offseason acquisition.
San Diego and Los Angeles.
Well, San Diego maybe. I would say the Dodgers, especially with Turner re-signing, and I think you have to put the Cardinals up there because they basically stole.
They stole Arenado.
Yeah,
Arenado for absolutely nothing. I mean, it was
Fernando Tatis just got a big deal. Did you see that?
Yeah. So
years, 340.
I think San Diego is definitely invested, but other than that, I think the Mets are right up there. Yeah, you're right. Bauer. I think I agree. You needed to get one of the big 3.
Yeah, it's a logical argument, though. That's my point. Because, John, we talked to Patchman Phil. Patchman Phil. And that was kind of his argument. And I started thinking about it and kind of trying to look at it from a different angle. And again, I agree. This was a damn good offseason for the Mets. But there's a certain logic to what he was saying that I just couldn't escape. So that's why I wanted to play the devil's advocate here tonight.
Gotcha.
Because listen, they didn't get any of the big three. Lindor, you don't know if he's going to be around. It could all fall apart and turn to shit. But I don't think that's going to happen.
You could say that about almost any team.
Yeah, that's true. But again, it's an argument. I think it's hyperbole to say it was a horrible offseason.
I think you're right. I think the Padres they're a better team.
They did a really good job. It cost them some money, but
right. But
I think as it stands right now, the Mets and the Braves are probably floating around tied at third in the National League behind the Dodgers and the.
Look, I'm reading an article right here that's the three most improved teams heading into 2021, and the top of that list is the New York Mets. Yeah. And I kind of agree with it.
Well, look, they brought in better offensive catcher. They brought in big offense at shortstop, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who did they trade in that? Rosario
and
Carlos Carrasco is a good acquisition.
Yeah, and that's the piece that I think kind of
that goes without anybody thinking because he came in the Lindor trade, and
right. And look, you got Carrasco, DeGrom, Stroman, and if what's his name could come back,
Syndergaard comes back.
Who has a better first four?
But Carrasco's a little bit of a question mark. He didn't have a great.
He struck out 30% of his hitters, and they had a 2.91 ERA.
Yeah, and he's got a good history too. I agree with you guys. It was a good offseason.
It wasn't great. Had the Mets landed Springer or if they landed Bauer alone, and with everything else that they did, then it's hands down.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think they landed Springer with everything else they did. It's
a matter of perspective. Is my point. Right. You look at it from a different angle. You go, this is kind of a disaster, or potentially a disaster.
And I
think the more realistic viewpoint, is that it's a pretty good offseason.
Well, we talked about this, Pete, when we did the Mets corner there when Patchman Phil came on. As far as Bauer goes. Last year, he had a lights out year last year. And granted, it was a short year, obviously, but he had a lights out year. He had a Cy Young winning year. But his overall complete career numbers,
he's no DeGrom.
Not at all, not even close.
No, I think I was comparing him to Carrasco, right?
No, we were comparing him to Jake Odorizzi.
Oh yeah, right.
His numbers compared to Jake Odorizzi were almost identical,
virtually identical.
I still think the Dodgers are the team to beat in the National League. I mean,
it might be the Padres.
It's going to be.
I don't think the Padres quite have the pitching that the Dodgers do, or the experience. That Dodgers lineup is just—it's
insane, especially with their
and they don't rely only on the long ball. They have like a little bit of everything, and they're all good, and it pisses me off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they went out and they got a couple of depth players. Everybody's saying,
the Padres are young and they don't know any better, and that's what makes them dangerous.
Right. So, well, and then one other note. I mean, everybody's talking about this idea of Chris Bryant being traded and everything else. Whatchamacallit, the Cubs president of baseball operations, he's like, not currently engaged in any trade talks with the Mets or anybody. So either he's full of shit or the press is. So one or the other there. But the only other thing I want to say is there's still a lot of talk with Taijuan Walker. Mets are high on bringing him in too, and that would round out that pitching, that starting rotation as well.
And has anybody heard anything else about Justin Turner?
He signed with the Dodgers.
Oh, he did. Okay, there we
go. Yeah, he signed with the Dodgers.
That's why I'm saying I think the Dodgers they had a really, they got, how do you say it, Corey Nebel, I don't know, and Trevor Bauer, and they were able to keep Turner. I mean,
David Price is their number 5 or 6 starting rotation guy.
That's why I give the Dodgers.
And he's not even bad in the playoffs anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Right? He used to suck in the playoffs.
And the Padres
it's disgusting, the rotation they have.
The Padres got some guys who you don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
Is Yu Darvish? What Yu Darvish are you going to get? Is Blake Snell going to have another lights out season?
And if they do, they're going to be competitive.
But anybody on that staff is going to benefit from that offense.
Right.
Is my question. Right. So again, that's not going to make them, lower their ERAs necessarily, but it's going to, if they just pitch moderately well, they're probably going to get more wins than they would on a lot of other teams.
Right.
I think
that
don't have that kind of firepower.
Well, it's your 1 and 2 out west in the National League West. I mean, where do you think Colorado sits out there?
They're gonna lose 100 games this year.
They're gonna lose 100. Yeah.
Sweet. Tickets will be cheap.
I mean, I'm looking at the Major League Power rankings. Tickets will be cheap. But
I think if we all get vaccinated, we should take a trip out there and we'll all go to a game together.
The tickets are always easy, even when they're great. But I think the Rockies are bottom 3.
My nephew lives out there too.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
We can crash. We can crash with him.
Crash with me. But look,
there we go.
The sad part about the Rockies is that they had 2 of the top infielders in the game.
Yeah.
And I still think before the beginning of the season, Trevor Story is going to be somewhere else.
I believe it. They're tearing it down, and
this is what the Rockies do. Mm-hmm. This is what the Rockies have had a lot of talent come through here. They just can't seem to put a team together. And they had the makings of this a couple years back, and they just couldn't build upon it. And I think between them, the Texas Rangers and the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're going to be the worst teams. And the Tigers, maybe. I don't know. The Orioles, maybe they'll be a little better than the Orioles.
The Orioles are probably a little bit better, but I think the biggest issue that I have with Arenado getting, being just, traded away for nothing, and not even that, just traded away in general, is what do I, now I have a purple Rockies jersey with Arenado on the back.
Yeah, it'll be worth something. You got to keep it.
So
get a Trevor Story before he's gone.
Grab one of them too. Huh?
Look, the Rockies have a way. Their farm team is always really good. They always bring up young players. Look, LeMahieu came from the Rockies. Arenado. I mean, at one point the Rockies had Arenado, Story, and LeMahieu in their infield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. Yes, they
did. And this bullshit about it's only they play half their games away. So it's not like they're hitting 340 at home and 210 on the road.
Right.
These are good baseball players. I mean, there are baseball insiders who think Nolan Arenado is not only the best third baseman in the game right now, but maybe one of the best third basemen to ever play the game. He's that good defensively, and he's a hell of a hitter. He had a bad year last year, but a lot of guys had a weird year last year because it was a weird year. So we'll see. I think the Cardinals are. That was the heist of the century.
That was definitely a heist, that's for sure.
But this is what sports is becoming.
Yeah,
I want out. Tough shit. You get nothing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and teams are willing to go even farther too.
Well, the Rockies are just dumping. I mean, look,
they're clean house. They're tearing it.
The other thing too is that in these middle market teams, which Colorado is, Denver's a huge sports city, but they don't have the residual income that they can use. Even the Mets struggled. That's why they sold the team. When you can't put people in the seats with a hot dog and a $20 beer in their hand, it's really hard to pay to make money to pay these guys. And the Rockies are involved in a multi-million-dollar development across 20th Street from the stadium. He cares more about that than he does about this team, and because that's going to make him money. And they'll be bad for a couple of years, and then the Rockies will be right back. They'll be on the verge again, and the same thing will happen. It's a broken record.
My biggest issue by the stadium in Denver is the place that closed 2 blocks away. So
yeah,
that really sucked.
Well, listen, here's some good news for you Orioles fans. I don't know if you read, they signed Matt Harvey to a minor league deal. So
that's awesome. Cal Ripken's coming back.
He's probably going to be their number 2.
That's right.
By the time it's all said and done.
Number 2 in AAA?
No, probably in Baltimore.
For some reason, though, the Orioles always at least win one game in a series against the Yankees. The Yankees just can't seem to as bad as they are, they just can't seem to roll them.
No, they can't. They can't.
As of right now, who's top 3 teams? And at National League, top 3 teams, American League.
I'm honestly going to go National League. I'm going to go Dodgers, Padres, Mets. That's my.
It's fair. How about American League?
American League. Twins, Yankees.
Twins?
Twins. Rays.
It's like
it's Kirby. It's a T in Tampa,
Kirby,
and it's all Twins.
Kirby
Puckett's coming back, yeah. And Harmon Killebrew's going to make an appearance too. Tampa. Tampa. I saw the T and I said, Tampa, Yankees.
Astros.
Yeah, Stros.
The Twins.
The Angels.
The Twins are up there.
No, Twins are up there. Twins wouldn't been. If you said top 5, I'd throw the Twins in there.
And a lot of people are hot on the White Sox.
Yeah, well,
I've heard that too.
They made some moves, but I don't know. Indians made a bunch of moves. Indians got a bunch of players. Indians pulled players from the Twins and the Red Sox. What they got? Indians.
White Sox have a good young team,
and
they did sign Adam
Rosario from. The Indians have 2 Rosarios on the team. So.
Right. Rosario Dawson and Eddie
Rosario and Ahmad.
I think the American League's going to be interesting because I think Toronto's going to be there.
Yeah, I was going to say you could probably put the Blue Jays up just because of their offense. I mean, good pitching beats good
American
offense.
League's a little bit more. I don't want to say diluted. A little bit more top heavy than the National League.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I would say the Rays are still up there. The Yankees are there. I mean, no, they didn't make.
The Rays,
but they have to.
But the Rays lost arguably their 2 best pitchers.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah,
can you really say that without Snell and Morton, they're the same team? I mean, they still have what's his name? Tyler Glasnow or whatever is. Yeah. I don't know if the Rays sort of remind me of the Kansas City Royals from a bunch of years back when it seemed like they had all of these guys playing at the height, and then they all scattered and they lost some pieces. And then the guys,
they won the World Series and then they tore it down.
And that's what the Rays sort of reminded me of. They were this team that was just playing they were playing way above what they should have been playing. Now I still think they're going to be a good team, but I don't know.
I'm
hoping that the Rays and the Astros took a little bit of a step down because I think the Yankees sort of stayed where they were. I don't think they're any better than they were. I think that you have teams like Minnesota and Chicago who are probably made some. But I mean,
you asked me top 5. I'm putting.
Do you think the Yankees are the favorite to win the American League?
If you want me to put them in order, I'm putting the Yankees at least 2, if not 1.
Okay.
And
with the Rays and
the Stros. So that's where I'm at. And then right behind them though are the Twins.
Yep.
The
Twins, the White Sox, the Indians too. I mean, the Blue Jays. Maybe the Angels.
The American League Central is going to be an interesting division, and the East too. But the East Central is going to be an interesting. Division.
Yeah,
Pete.
I mean, the Indians definitely lost. I mean, obviously with Lindor and Brad Hand, and they lost a lot of pieces.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
It's. I think Dodgers and Padres and. I think the Mets and the Braves are kind of a toss-up.
Well,
that's what I said before. You could tie them at 3. I'm throwing the Mets in.
Don't underestimate the Braves. They seem to their pitching just seems to always be good.
Sure.
I think, I would probably. The Yankees are the Yankees,
right?
So.
But I think the Yankees overperformed last year, especially based on the amount of injuries that they had. But I think they found some new some new.
Yeah, I mean, if we're running under the assumption that every team, let's say just for the sake of the argument, avoids the big major injuries or whatever, I think the Yankees have got a chance to be a better team than they were last year. So,
I mean,
I would put them, the Blue Jays, probably the Astros or the White Sox, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't think the Rays are going to be as good.
Yeah, neither do I.
I would maybe put them, maybe fourth, maybe ahead of the White Sox, maybe. But I think they're around fourth or fifth.
I think you're going to see the Dodgers and the Padres have incredible records because other than themselves, I think they're going to beat up on the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies.
Oh, totally going to. Yep. Yeah, the numbers. It's going to be top heavy, bottom heavy, and that. I mean, there's not going to be any middle ground.
The winner of that division is where the playoffs are going to go through.
Right.
Yeah, there's one of them's going to win. The Dodgers will win 100.
Yeah, because the National League East is going to be.
The Padres will win 98 games.
And so it's the Central. Yeah.
And then the Diamondbacks and.
I think whoever wins that division is going to have the best record in the National League, certainly, and maybe in baseball. I think the playoffs go through California this year.
We will certainly see. Quick question for both of you. I'm just going to read through it really quick, and you can agree, disagree, whatever. It was on SNY last night. They did top X factors for both the Mets and the Yankees. Top X factors this year. They gave Stroman number 3, Stroman number 2, Pete Alonso number 1, Edwin Diaz. Thoughts?
Stroman, yeah, I think Alonso. I agree with that as well because. Will he really get back to what he was? I don't know enough about. I think the X factor for the Mets is the X factor for every team. Is that if their starting pitching is anywhere close to what it could be, and they can get healthy in their starting lineup and get what's his name Syndergaard back within any sort of shape that he was previously,
right?
That's the X factor. Because then I think they arguably have one of the top pitching staffs in baseball.
Right. Pete, your thoughts?
Well, look, probably Pete Alonso's never going to have as good a season as he's already had.
2 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, it's
but somewhere closer to it.
Yeah. Right, but I don't think he has to, do 95.
He doesn't have to hit 53 home runs.
No, he
42, 38, 40, 42.
He's got to bounce back.
Right.
He has to become a good player and not go down the route of
right. If he hits around 40, then I think
he's only what 25, 26 years old.
24, 25. Yeah,
24, 25. I mean,
I would probably have a bigger question mark about him than Stroman. I think Stroman is he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be solid, not spectacular. Gotcha. And it's going to be part of a really good bullpen. Diaz is probably the biggest wild card.
I would say so. I would say so. Who's going to? What Diaz is going to show up? The halfway decent, solid one from last year, the dumpster fire from 2 years ago, or the best closer in baseball from 3 years ago. Which Diaz we get?
I think you take the first one you mentioned.
I think New York has two of the wackiest closers in baseball on both sides. They both. I have no confidence in either of them.
Well, that brings me to the Yankees. The top 3 X factors they mentioned for the Yankees were number 3 Chapman, number 2 Gleyber Torres, and number 1 Garrett Cole. Thoughts,
Pete?
Why would Garrett Cole be an X factor? Again, if he's not as spectacular as he was last season, look, a guy like that, you don't say he's on the decline until he's actually on the decline.
Yeah, I don't think he's an X factor. I would say that the X factor wouldn't be Cole. I would say the X factor would be everybody else in the starting rotation.
The X factor for the Yankees is who is going to step up and be the number 2 and number 3 pitchers and have no doubt going into the postseason that's exactly where they are.
I think it's Chapman on the Yankees for sure. Of those 3 guys,
right? Yeah. So, hey,
but I agree with your theory, Harry. Overall,
Well, it's Chapman, it's Stanton, it's Sanchez, and I'll tell you what, it's also Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
The Yankees have to get something out of these players. I don't have a problem with Torres. I don't have a problem with LeMahieu. I don't have a problem with. I know that Torres maybe needs to show up a little bit more in the postseason. But the question is, other than Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, Tallon, Montgomery, Garcia, Herman, Severino. Herman and Severino, if one of them lives up to their potential, it could be good. Montgomery again. I mean, this is a guy who, I don't expect Chapman to be great. I would say the bigger X factor is I want Zach Britton to bounce back and beat Chapman for the closer spot. That's what I want. I don't think the Yankees bullpen is as anywhere near as strong as it was in years past. And their so-called best bullpen in the history of baseball last year did not live up to the billing. So I think it's pitching. It's the name any pitcher other than Garrett Cole on the Yankees, and who knows what you're going to get. Who knows?
This is true.
The guys are coming back from, having their arms torn off. There's guys that are 105 years old with, career ending. They've taken a lot of risks on 1-year contracts with guys who you don't know. And quite honestly, they lost Tanaka, who is arguably their second best pitcher, or at least you kind of knew what you were going to get with them. Yeah. So I think the biggest X factor has to be Severino, and then a Herman after that. These are guys that they've invested a lot of time and money into, and I think they have to perform.
What do you? You know what? I like I said, I think Chapman's an X factor. I think the whole bullpen is an X factor. I don't have a problem with Torres either. I don't either. But as far as number one being Garrett Cole, I don't agree with that at all. I think it's everybody else in the rotation. If it can be your number one, you can pull any of those names out and put them in. Well,
there. Cole's proven he could pitch in New York.
Yeah. And the Yankees are kind of in a position that the Mets often find them in, and that there's a lot of things, and this is true to a certain extent, obviously, of every team, and true of to a greater extent of some teams, but the Yankees are kind of in a position where you need a lot of things to go right.
Right.
There's a lot of, and there's always question marks with every team, but,
sure.
Sometimes you end up, in order to have a good season, you have to have a lot of these things, more of them go right than you kind of have players that you feel pretty solid and locked in about. So
sure.
That's a position I always feel like the Mets have been in the last. Well, they're going to be good if this happens. Sure. If this happens, the Jets too. If this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this goes right, and everybody stays healthy, right. And then you go, well, it's just not reasonable to think that all of those things are going to work out. So
sure. What to me was encouraging from the Yankees last year, and granted it was a shortened season, is that the second guys in line when they were hurt, when their so-called stars were out, stepped up and proved that they're starters. And so
that's a very Yankees kind of thing.
That's a very Yankee thing. So I'm totally hot on Mike Tauchman. I want to see Tyler Wade in the lineup more. I like Gio Urshela. I think that they've got depth at a lot of these positions.
Right.
It's with anything it comes with the Yankees, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it comes down to that pitching staff. And when I look at the pitching staff, other than Garrett Cole, the only person that I feel like going in, I might have a inkling of confidence in is Corey Kluber, and that's saying a lot. I just don't have confidence in any of these other guys because we have enough of a history with them that they're not that lights out player consistently that you need to win a championship. And that's why I'm disappointed that the Yankees did not. Now, look, they went out and they got some players. If these guys are anything what they used to be with Tallon and Kluber and even Jordan Montgomery and Herman and Severino, then they could have a really good starting four.
Sure.
And that's what you need in the playoffs. And you need guys who can go 5 or 6 innings so your bullpen doesn't get shattered, especially if we're going to play anything like what we did last year. Last year did not the way the season and the way the playoffs were done did not help the Yankees because the Yankees had too much of a traditional starting rotation that could not pitch every 2 days. And so the teams last year that had the most depth and the most consistency in their overall pitching staff seemed to do well. The Braves and, they were teams, the Rays, the Braves, the Dodgers, there were teams that just had that ability to have young arms come in and fill innings. The Yankees don't have that.
Absolutely, and that should be a given and addressed when it's not working. But yeah, well, we'll see with all of that. I still think with what the Rays lost, I think the Yankees will win the American League East. I got two other things for you on baseball, real quick. One, there's a story going around that's saying Big Papi is not happy with the current direction of Major League Baseball with all the just strikeouts and home runs, strikeouts and home runs, strikeouts and home runs. And he's saying it's complete, it's bogus, and used a lot of expletives. Let's put it that way. And what I read, whether it was doctored up or not, I don't know. But and he's actually complaining that he thinks it's coming from coaches actually teaching younger players, and I don't agree with that. That it's all about the home run ball and swinging for the fences. I know when I coached years ago, it was not that. It was we were pissed off at anybody that was swinging for the fences. Put the ball in play, get on base.
Well, supposedly they deadened the ball.
Supposedly
they're changing the ball. So Major League Baseball obviously thinks that maybe there's a bit of a problem with all or nothing.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a slugger and who made his.
Well, that's what makes it so ironic that this. He's a
DH that when he played the field was a joke, but he's arguably the best DH of all time, and arguably top 2, maybe 3 postseason hitters of all time, and a lot of those were big hits. Or it was the long ball. I agree with them. I want it. Look, I'd much rather see a 3-2 pitchers duel where the game-winning run is on a opposite field single, and the guy's it's a close play at the plate when the left fielder throws it home. I'd much rather see that.
Right.
I think the best teams, and look, if you look at a team like the Dodgers did hit a lot of home runs, and there was a lot of postseason home runs, and there was a lot of strikeouts. I just think that there's a lot of younger players in the game. There's not as much players don't stick around as long. And I do think a little bit of the fundamentals are lost. And I do hope the ball is deader, because what you're also seeing, which is the opposite side of what Big Papi's saying, is that you're seeing a lot of really good pitchers give up a lot of home runs.
Sure.
And that you never saw that before. So back in the day with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds, and the ball was flying out of the park, you didn't see the top pitchers, with an ERA under 3. But
no, those were the ones that they weren't hitting home runs.
But 70% of their earned runs are on the long ball.
Right.
You just didn't see that. And so that tells me that there's something to, I really do feel if you get any part of the bat on the ball these days, you have a chance of hitting a home run. I mean, how many home runs did Brett Gardner hit last year? I mean, that's point enough.
Right.
And so I do hope they deaden the ball. And it goes in waves, and people love, look, we're probably more traditionalists than a lot of other people. People don't even follow teams anymore. They just want to see the ball fly out of the park.
That's all.
And I'd rather see it.
It's the same thing with football. You got the fantasy.
Right.
You got a guy on your fantasy team, and if he's not also on your favorite team, you want to see him do well.
And what's more exciting than a team playing with a 1-game playoff that hits 7 home runs and
wins 7-6? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's what a lot of people want to see. I don't, because
I want to see small ball. I want to see
it diminishes the regular season.
I want to see a single, a double, a single.
I also want to see a time where pitchers can dominate and really go 8 innings again, or 9 innings.
The proverbial pitcher's duel. Right. I mean, that's
Right.
what you want to see. The other thing I was going to say too is we just got a report in too from Denver. Came in because obviously we were bitching about the Rockies. It came. They're cleaning house obviously, and we figured out why. They hired a new GM right here.
Yes.
Marie Kondo.
Let me tell you.
Nolan Arenado did not bring her joy.
Yeah,
and
I bet Nolan Arenado brought more joy to Marie Kondo than it did to the Manfords. Yeah, other than the Nuggets, Denver is traditionally, this is there's two franchises right now that are just not looking great, and that's the Broncos and the Rockies. And if I had to pick one of them to turn it around, I think you know which one it's going to be. The Rockies are just they're a stepchild in this town, and the ownership, people will go see Rockies games no matter what. And so the demand to put a winner on the field is just not there. And I really don't think this is really a baseball town. It's a sports town, but it's a football town. And maybe, the Rockies and Nuggets, depending on where they're at and how they're playing, are always second rands.
Would you say that hockey is bigger than baseball?
No. Well,
no.
It varies. When the Avalanche were at their height, when they first came to Denver, and Patrick Waugh was a goalie, and they had the great rivalry with the Red Wings, hockey spiked here. I think it was also because there was at the time, there's a lot of people moving from other parts of the country where hockey was bigger. The Avalanche are a big draw here, don't get me wrong. But baseball in downtown Denver in the summer is a big thing. And I think that the baseball IQ of this town has gone up considerably over the last 15, 20 years that the Rockies have been around now for 30 years, 28 years, I think. Yeah, because they basically came here when I did.
93, yeah.
So, in fact, I remember when they played at Mile High Stadium. But this is a football town, number one, and I think it really varies. The Nuggets are usually not necessarily. That's changed a little bit with the population growth here in Denver. I think basketball is a little bit more popular, and the Nuggets were exciting last year, but there's always a hard ticket, but it's disappointing that the Rockies are letting. It's the same story. I mean, it's just sad that the players leave here, and I think we're starting to see a little bit in baseball of what's happening in the NBA, and probably will start to happen in the NFL, in that there's going to be 5, 6, 7 power teams, and the rest of the league is a farm system for disgruntled players who want to go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. I think you're close to.
I hope the Rockies do keep Trevor Story. I mean, I really do, because he's also, much like Arenado, much like DJ and LeMahieu, a great talent. I hope they do keep him and are able to maybe build something around him, because he's fairly young.
Right.
But I
should go after him.
But I do think that he will be playing somewhere else. Yeah, the Mets are going to have 2 shortstops.
2 shortstops, yeah. You take this one, I'll take that one.
Yeah, maybe Lindor can go to second base.
Put him at third.
I think either of them could probably play third.
Yeah,
but I mean, look, if he's that good, and much like Arenado, I don't think a lot of people know about him because they play in Denver. They just don't get the national attention that a lot of other people do. I mean, how many people knew DJ LeMahieu before he came to the Yankees? Even when he came to the Yankees, he wasn't the story of that offseason, because it was another shortstop from the Rockies that the Yankees signed that was playing for the Blue Jays before that, if you remember correctly. That was the big offseason story, is that Troy Tulowitzki's a Yankee. Of course, that fizzled out as we expected. But LeMahieu, the Rockies have a long history of producing some really good baseball players. They just don't stick around.
Right. You're right. One more note on Denver. I'll just ask you. Obviously we would say that based on what Pete was asking you before, we would say that the football Broncos are probably obviously the number one team.
Sure, that's all they talk about.
Yeah, that's right. So are you putting hockey last?
No, I think the Nuggets and the Avalanche are neck and neck, and right now probably ahead of the Rockies.
Ahead of the Rockies. So you'd be putting football first, and then basketball, hockey, and then baseball at the bottom.
I would say so right now. Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Ooh, basket hockey.
Hockey ball.
Look, I mean, I watched the Nuggets last night too. I watched almost all the game. I missed a little bit of the third quarter, and of course they had a big win, and then against the Lakers, and they go, and I think they lost again tonight. They go on a road trip and they lose. The Nuggets are another team that watch out. Nikola Jokic is getting national talk. Cornbread Maxwell last night on the Celtics broadcast said that he reminds him of a 7-foot Larry Bird. He did. I think he would know. He has to be in the MVP conversation.
Has to be.
He has to be, and he won't be. But imagine Jokic on the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
You know what? He would have more success if he changed his name.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it. They don't know if it's Jokic or Jokic or
Who cares? I call him the big white stiff, but you know what?
If he changed his name to like Smith,
he's
the MVP.
He would get my vote for MVP right now.
There you go. All right. Based on our talk of the Avalanche, let's just throw a couple of seconds of NHL in there. Rangers are they played the Devils last night, and they were tied at 2 going into the starting the third period, and they lost 5-2. Devils scored 3 in a row. They interviewed Mika Zibanejad afterwards, and he says they got to find a way to get it done. Got to find a way to tip the scale to their favor. It's not that they're not playing hard. And Chris Kreider said the same thing. He says it's unacceptable. Things got away from them, and they got away from what they were doing well. They got to get back to that. Devils just outskated them, and they wanted it more. It was just ridiculous last night. But on that note, the Islanders
are on a little bit of a hot streak.
Yeah, they are. They 2 games in a row, back to back with the Sabres. They've
won 3 in a row now.
They won, but back to back with the Sabres the Monday and Tuesday.
It helps. It helps playing the Sabres. But.
Sure. Well, they won 3-1 on Monday night, and then they shut them out 3-0. So that's assisting their role right there. But hey. You know what? Your Avalanche are
right there, and they're in a tough division, and they just beat.
They're in a tough division, and they're third.
Beat Vegas last night, and
they beat Vegas last night, and they're third behind Vegas in the Blues right now. So in the West,
that's a tough division.
Excuse me, the Honda West.
That's a tough division. Yeah,
the Honda West.
The Mass Mutual East. Jesus Christ! Talk about something more annoying than whether or not we should have a designated hitter.
I want to see them. I want to see them redo the logo and make room on the sweaters.
I was going to say, just wait
for Honda
till
cars, like an Accord, like on their jerseys.
Yeah, just wait till they get advertising on the uniform.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I am the first to admit that out of all sports, I know the least about hockey, especially with what's going on right now. However, I will say this: I am totally rooting for the Maple Leafs and the Canadians to somehow, they're in the same division, obviously, but they're both off to a good start, and you got to kind of love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Toronto is the Chicago Cubs of hockey. I mean, when was the last time they won a championship?
1746.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there are in the largest city in the country where this sport is from. They have not won a championship since I don't know when, and I just think it would be great if they could do it this year.
There you go. Well, I mean, they're definitely off to a good start. They have the best record right now in hockey, and the most points, 24 points they got. So they're if this is signs and indication of how the rest of the year is going to go. I mean, this could be the Maple Leafs year. So we shall see. We'll get more and more into hockey as more things develop in that, but that's pretty much the state of it right there. So,
1967 was the last time they won.
I was going to say in the 60s,
and they have 13 Stanley Cups, but 67,
13 Stanley Cups, and they haven't won in 54 years.
Yeah, so come on.
They were entering. What was the Rangers drought?
1940 to 92, 52 years.
Okay, so
it's longer.
So they're due.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maple Leafs are due.
They're due. Oh well. All right. Well, we solved all the
I'm sorry.
problems.
Did I say 92? 1940 to 1994. So 54
94.
years.
Okay.
So it's
there
54
you go.
years.
54 years.
This is it right now. They're at 50. They can pull a New York Rangers and
Without Mark Messier.
Without Mark Messier and Andy Richter, and get it done on Adam Graves. But hey, we'll see how that pans out. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll fill you in on that. But
Gordie Howe's going to come back.
Gordie Howe will come back and Howe
and the Gamper.
Yeah.
Steve Howe's going to come back and
Steve Howe's going to play guitar.
He's going to play guitar for the Maple Leafs.
That's right.
And
strange prog arpeggios.
Absolutely.
Help them win face-offs.
Either that or Steve Howe, the pitcher. He's going to come back.
Steve Howe.
Yeah. One of them. One of the Steve Howes. I'm not going to tell you which. But
no.
Maybe they could probably get both of them.
They could probably get both of them for a song right now. No pun intended.
I think they both look like hockey sticks these days. Goalie pads.
Yeah, we will see. So, all right. Well, that should wrap the show up for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.logroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at 7:30. For those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. Watch your sports. Come back on next week and comment into us and tell us if you agree with us or you think we're full of shit. One or the other. Just let us know. And we will talk to you then, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Peace.
Look at the little Tula. She's talking to the producer. Talking to a cat. And